please. Thank you. My name is Tim Lentz, and I'm the lead director for the Lapeer County Tea Party. We want to thank you all for coming. This is an important forum. We're trying to choose the next House of Representative for Michigan candidate for the 82nd District. We don't have a lot of time to be asking questions. We're going to allow 1 minute per question from the candidates. Each candidate is going to be answering the questions, and we'll explain that to you a little further when Michelle gets up here. Just wanted to take a minute to welcome you all, and thank you very much for coming. I also want to take a moment here, if I can, because of the killings in Oregon yesterday. There was one person that you didn't hear mentioned too much on the phone. This man's name is Chris Mintz, M-I-N-T-Z. He's an Army veteran of 10 years. He rushed this shooter, took 7 shots. He's in serious condition in the hospital, and I'd just like to take a moment to offer him our prayers and let everybody know that, and him know that we're all thinking of him. So, Chris Mintz, get well soon. Thank you very much for your service and for your time. And a minute of silence, please. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to start out the way we always start our meetings out, with an opening prayer, and then the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll continue with our program. So, Carol, would you come up and do the prayer for us, please?
I want to say that we all expect so much from our elected representatives, but God also expects something from us for them. So I want to read the scripture, 1 Timothy 2, 1 through 4. I exhort, therefore, that first of all, supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings, and for all that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. For this is good and acceptable in the sight of God our Savior, who will have all men to be saved and to come unto the knowledge of the truth. And the prayer. Lord, as we are gathered here tonight to recognize, understand, and learn more about our candidates that are running for Michigan State Representative, we welcome your peaceful presence here tonight. May everything be done in an orderly, courteous manner and in reverence to your Holy Spirit. Thank you for blessing our United States of America. Help us to restore America to her exceptional state the Founding Fathers designed in the United States Constitution and Declaration of Independence. In Jesus' name, amen. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. And if the veterans would please lead us in the pledge.
Thank you very much. And now, if I can get Michelle to come up here, and she's going to do the opening, and we'll continue with our program. This is Michelle O'Neill.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. I just want to say thank you to each of the candidates for being here tonight. What a wonderful crowd this is. And thank you for being a part of your community and a part of your district and ultimately a part of your country. So I want to thank you all for being here as well. I'd like to thank the Sportsman's Club, thank Tim and Carol and everybody that worked hard on the Tea Party as well to pull all of this together and, you know, get everything on the agenda and organized and everything. I would like to introduce to you our esteemed guest, Honorable Nick Holowka, Lapeer Judge, who is going to be moderating our event tonight. What we will be doing is, you know, you have filled out some questions. We will get to all of the questions that we can. But ultimately, Judge Holowka has the final say in the questions that get asked. The way that we're going to do this is that we're going to start with one candidate with a question. Each one will have the opportunity to answer, and then we will start the next question with the next candidate and so on, so that everybody has opportunity to answer. I'd like to remind everybody one more time just to silence your cell phones, please. There's a lot of us in here, so if we get a bunch of them, it's going to make a lot of racket. Due to time, like I mentioned, not all of the questions will be asked, but I want to please note and have you understand that out of respect for each of you, for each other, and for all of our candidates, we will not tolerate any rowdiness, any disruptions, or any outbursts from the crowd. We want to give each candidate their opportunity to answer your questions to the best of their ability. The rules have been explained to all the candidates, and as Tim did explain, we've collected your questions, and the Honorable Judge will have the final say as to which questions will be asked. We do have a timekeeper, so they will be timed, and they'll be held very strictly, short of beatings, to their time limit. So now, moving on in the interest of time, one more thing I wanted to say. As I introduce each of the candidates, please hold your applause to the end, obviously in the interest of time. And also, as they are answering the questions, allow for each candidate to complete that particular question before we have applause. We can do that at the end, okay? So I am not going to give you the whole rundown on each candidate and their bios like we usually do. I'm going to allow them to do that as they introduce themselves. But as I say their name, I'll have them raise their hand, especially for those of you in the back who cannot see, and let you know where they are from. Russell Adams is from the city of Lapeer. R.G. Bohm is here? Not here? Okay, is a candidate from Dryden. Todd Courser is from Silverwood. Jake Davison from Mayfield Township. Margaret Guerrero DeLuca, Emily City. James Dewilde, from Lapeer. Rick Guerrero Jr. from Emily City, also. Gary Howell from North Branch. Eric Johnson of Lapeer. Ian Kempf of Emily City. Allan Landosky of Lapeer. Jan Peabody of Lapeer. Sharna Cramer Smith of Arcadia Township, and Chris Tuski of Lapeer. Let's give them all a big hand. Thank you very much. So our Honorable Judge has the questions, and we'll go ahead and get started. Oh, we'll start on the end with Russell Adams for opening statements, which are 2 minutes, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Then we're going to go into the questions. Right, this will have more than enough questions, but if you have some that you want to submit, I'll try to look through them. Mr. Adams,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Russ Adams. I'm a firefighter, a career firefighter, and for 25 years, I have put myself in harm's way, sometimes risking my life for the sake of others. For the last decade, my family made the heartfelt choice to become a foster family. We've reached out to the community, and we've embraced the needs of those around us. Through that opportunity and other choices, we've been blessed with becoming an adoptive family. So I'm a firefighter, I'm a parent, I'm a husband, I'm a foster parent, but I'm also a neighbor. The passion that my family has to put others before self is what I would like to take to Lansing and represent this fine community. I have no agenda, I have a priority, and that's families first. If it's good for a family, then I'm all for it. Families strengthen communities, and communities strengthen families. Whether it's schools, whether it's our local government, or whether it's the identity that we draw from each of the communities that we live in, those are the things that I want to stand for. If you're tired of business as usual in Lansing, Don't send another career politician. Send a family man. Send a fighter. Send a message. Thank you.
I'll just stand here. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight. Obviously, this is a referendum on me, and I appreciate the opportunity to come here this evening. First and foremost, I just want to say that I'm sorry for everything that I put all of you through. It's been obviously hell for everyone here, and I'm just going to spend the evening talking about really my record and allowing you folks to make the decision. I felt like that Lansing shouldn't make that decision. I felt the voters of the 82nd District of Lapeer County should make that decision. And so really, even as difficult as that was, as my family, we were walking through this, and my wife and I were discussing it, I felt like that it was important that I bring myself forward, put forward my candidacy, allow you folks to look at my record, and to speak about really what I found in Lansing. And obviously, if you look at that and you determine that I'm not the right person to represent you, you have plenty of candidates here. And I think it's really important that you folks are able to make that decision. So this evening, I'm going to talk about my record. I'm going to talk about also really what I found in Lansing is the very difficult spot to be able to serve in regards to the corruption and the difficulties that the Lansing landscape creates. And so as I answer the questions, I'm going to try and bring a little bit of perspective so that you folks can make the right decision and bring forward the best candidate for this district to be able to serve the people of this county. So thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Jake Davison from Mayfield Township, and one thing I want to say is that especially on, at least on the Republican side, some of the candidates I haven't met until just tonight. I assume that all 11 of us on the Republican side are 100% right to life, for the Second Amendment, for lower taxes, for smaller government. I don't think what we need in the next couple of weeks of this campaign is a debate about who agrees, who has the right positions on the issues, because we're probably not that greatly distinguishable from each other, unless there's something I don't know. We can send someone who agrees with everything that we conservative Republicans at least, agree with to Lansing, but can that person get those things done that we want to have done? For the last 18 years, since 1997, I have been working in politics in Lansing. I've worked for Representative Gilbert when he represented Lapeer County. I served constituents on his behalf from 1999 to 2002, and then again in the Senate in 2003 and 2004. I know how to get things done in Lansing. My other jobs since then have been in and around the legislature. I have a lot of experience in Lansing, and I'm not ashamed to say that I have a lot of experience. Now, there's some folks who might think, well, we don't want a person who, like a Lansing person or someone who knows all the people on the inside of how things work. Well, if you go have surgery, do you want someone who's never done it before, or do you want someone who has a lot of experience with it? And I think I'm the most experienced candidate, and I look forward to proving that in the next couple of weeks. Thanks.
Hi, good evening. My name is Margaret Guerrero DeLuca. I'd like to thank the Lapeer Tea Party for hosting this forum tonight, and Judge Holowka, and most importantly, all of you for coming out this evening. It seems like only yesterday that I was standing here before you, and it's unfortunate. However, if this special election brings closure to the recent events that have occurred and allows us to bring competent representation to the citizens of Lapeer County, then I'm happy to be here. I'd like to share my background, and hopefully through my answers to tonight's questions, you'll see that I am the right candidate to represent Lapeer County. I'm a lifelong resident of Imlay City. I'm a proud wife of a 26-year veteran police officer. I'm a blessed mother to 2 amazing children. I'm proud to say that I am a public servant to my community. I bring in experience and insight from many areas that are essential to being a good representative of the people. I have corporate budgeting and project management experience as both a process specialist and a senior manager for Chrysler Financial. I have municipal experience as a former mayor and city commissioner of Imlay City. I bring insight from an educator's point of view as a teacher in Lapeer County. For those who know me through either work, city commission, or even my volunteerism, know that I bring facts, numbers, and data to support my positions. However, I also bring fairness, cooperation, and transparency. The last campaign was exhausting and didn't end so well for me. So why did I choose to run again? I chose because I'm both angered and disappointed that the majority of issues that were pressing and urgent last year are still unresolved. As your state representative, I will bring common sense, competence, cooperation, and ethics to Lansing. I will focus on issues that affect our everyday lives. I promise you, I will not push legislation that is fruitless, self-absorbed, and divisive. It is time we start working together to make our state and county strong. Thank you.
Good evening. I too would like to thank the Sportsman Club and Lapeer Tea Party for putting this together, and all you folks for coming out. It was the civic mindedness is overwhelming. My name is Jim Dewilde. I'm not a politician. The only other thing I've ever run for is PTA president. I won. It's a banner year. I'm a family man. I have 3 children, 2 of whom are grown with children of their own, and my daughter who just entered her senior year at Lapeer High. I'm a veteran. I spent most of my career in the restaurant industry. Retired several years ago. Had a couple of heart attacks, beat cancer, and figured I must be here for a reason. So maybe it's time for me to give back a little something. And if anybody deserves to have something given back to, it's the people of this county. We thought we had it licked during the last election, and that didn't happen. So I'm here to tell you that if you count on me, I will see to your issues. I will make sure that what Lapeer County needs in ways of education, roads, those things get done in Lansing. I guess when you say I'm a Republican in the spirit of Teddy Roosevelt, we can't do it alone. We have to be able to reach across the aisle. And I've always been pretty good at reaching across the aisle. Consensus. That's what we're looking for. I think by seeking consensus, we can get a lot accomplished and move everybody forward. Thank you.
My name is Rick Guerrero. I'm a lifelong resident of Lapeer County. I graduated from Emily City High School in the class of '99. I have 4 kids, and I'm married to my wife, Heather Guerrero. I work with my father's business. We do floor covering. A lot of you guys have seen us in your own homes and trusted us to be the ethically type people that you would invite into your home. Oftentimes, where people say, just come on in, I'll tell you where the key is. That type of trust is very important to what we can provide you guys with representation in Lansing. The reason I'm running is, you know, in 2000, I saw Ron Paul and became very, very inspired at his love for liberty and the Constitution. And I felt that with the last election, Lapeer County voters sided a lot with that liberty-minded setting. You know, we need to keep that Constitution sacred, as well as, you know, things like the right to life, our Second Amendment protections, as well as our right to farm, our agricultural heritage. I'd like to see our right to farm expand into small businesses being protected by some of the same principles that the right to farm provides for farmers. Oftentimes, townships can become cumbersome to small businesses and eliminate competition for bigger corporations. Thank you guys for your consideration.
Good evening. My name is Gary Howell. I'm a Republican candidate for state representative from Lapeer County. I want to thank the Tea Party, and I especially want to thank all you voters for being here tonight. It's rare we have an opportunity to talk directly to the voters, and it's a wonderful thing to see this kind of interest in our county. Unlike a prior speaker, I do not believe this is an election. This is an election that is a referendum on anybody. This is an election to elect the right person to represent the people of Lapeer County going forward. We need competent legislation handled in Lansing. We need it done with dignity and competence and thought, not demagoguery. I got to say, I don't have much Lansing experience, but I have a great deal of North Branch experience, and that's what we need in Lansing. Lansing is largely out of control, out of your control and out of my control. It's a sad situation down there. And I'm a Republican, but I certainly do not endorse everything the Republican Party does. When I'm elected, you will find that I sometimes disagree with my party and will vote the other way, because I believe the people need the representation, not party caucuses, not lobbyists, not pressure groups, not the governor's office. We're representing you folks right here in Lapeer County. Now, why am I doing this? I have a vast interest in public service. I have set up as a volunteer ever since. I volunteered for the United States Army for service during the Vietnam War and served in Korea. The amount of waste and abuse in our government is staggering. I'm a fed-up taxpayer. I'm fed up with the overregulation. I'm fed up with too much government. And I want to go to Lansing and cut this thing down to size. Thank you very much.
Is that working?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ian Kempf. I would like to thank you all for being here tonight. And I would also like to welcome you to Lapeer County Sportsman's Club as a member of this organization. I have been a county commissioner in this county, servicing the southeast area of the county for the past 15 years. I've been reelected by my constituents 7 times, and I guess as the longest serving elected official up here, if that makes me a career politician, my mother will be really happy to know I have a new career. But I don't think so. I think, quite frankly, that it is experience. And I think that we have taken the county through, and I tip my hat to my fellow commissioners, we've taken the county through the worst recession in our lifetime. We have proven that we can downsize government, and we have proven that we can balance the budget. Now, in saying that we downsize government, I'm very proud to say that we did that with a thoughtful manner to our employees. The vast majority, we went down by almost 1/5 of the county employees, and the vast majority of those were done with attrition. So it doesn't have to be a conservative. You do not have to not be compassionate. I believe that's what I bring to the table. Many of you might also know I'm also the fair manager for the Eastern Michigan State Fair, and I've done that position for 18 years. And I'm very proud at where I took that position 18 years ago to where the fair is now. With that, thank you very much, and thank you for being here.
My name is Allan Landosky, and this is my first political experience of actually running for an office. I'm probably one of the older guys here, but I've been a scientist and an engineer for 35 years. I worked in the big companies. In fact, I was forced retired by Larry Summers out of General Motors in 2009. And I did some work after that about getting other people employed who were also on the 2009 layoff binge for the auto industry. I served in the Marine Corps as an officer. I was a pilot. I worked in the nuclear utility industry, mostly because I had a top secret security clearance. And then I was one of the 151st people that were hired for the Saturn car experience. And I finished up my career at General Motors until they let me go. My political experience was beating on doors or working in the Oakland County Republican Party for Spencer Abraham, who, as you know, lost to Debbie Stabenow. Someday we got to get her out of there. The other thing I did was I was going to get very politically active in helping Dave Brandon try and run for governor. And that didn't work out so good. Of course, he went to work at U of M. I'm impressed with this. This is much different than Oakland County. And the only thing I can say is I want you to know that you're going to have a fixed direction about the way that I would operate in Lansing. And I would propose that all the work and all the communication I do is for the citizens of Lapeer County. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jan Peabody, and I want to thank the Lapeer Tea Party for having me again, and the Sportsman's Club, and for all of you that are here tonight. First of all, I want to tell you that I know the meaning of hard work. Growing up on a local dairy farm here in Lapeer County in Goodland Township, I had no choice but to learn what hard work was, which I continue to practice daily. 15 years ago, my track record regarding hard work was put to a test. When my children were 8 and 12 years old, I suddenly and unexpectedly became a single mother due to the death of their father. Though at times it was a struggle, we made it, and I'm very, very proud of Adrian and Henry today. Yes, I've worked hard my entire life. Honestly, this campaign is one of the hardest things I've done. I quit my job on Monday to dedicate the next 4 weeks to this campaign. But also, I believe it's one of the easiest things I've done because I believe I'm the person best positioned to lead Lapeer County into the future. The election is about the future of Lapeer County. This election is not about our past. I believe I represent the future for every person and every family in this district. I'm not content with Lapeer County's unemployment rate being 8%. I'm in no way satisfied that this is the best that we can do. I believe there's potential to create jobs, to streamline government, cutting taxes, and burdensome regulations. And again, I want to thank all of you. And on one thing I feel, I'll bring my 30 years of nursing experience to the Lansing and represent you in that way too. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sharna Cramer Smith. I'm a fourth-generation Lapeer County family, born and raised here in Emily City. I grew up working alongside my family, Cramer's Furniture Store in Emily City. You might remember that from years back. We were always involved with community. I've been married 24 years to my second grade sweetheart. I said second grade. Jeff, who is a fifth-generation Lapeer County family. We have 2 children, Isaac and Olivia, who are currently attending college. I attended Emily City Christian School and Emily City High School, graduated in 1986. I worked at Lapeer Regional Hospital for 10 years as a pharmacy technician. For the past 11 years, I have been elected and have proudly served Lapeer County as clerk of this township, Arcadia. You may remember that I ran for the same position in 2014, only to come up really short. I learned a lot. I'm running again to give you, the voters, a choice of someone different. I may not have all the answers, but I speak from the heart when I say I love where I live and I care about Lapeer County. My campaign strategy is true grassroots. No big money or advisors from outside of this community. I have no one to serve and answer to but you, the people of Lapeer County. You are my advisors. What I will do is listen, communicate, and use common sense, learning all sides of an issue before making a decision. Lapeer County should not be judged on one person's bad choices and self-destructive behavior. I believe Lapeer County is a great place to be. Thank you.
Good people of Lapeer County, my name is Chris Tuski, and you'll find many motivations to run for the state representative's position here tonight. For me, I have 2 reasons. 1, to serve the people, not as a politician, but as a problem solver. A common man who wants honesty, sincerity, and integrity back into Lansing. And two, because I'm exhausted and burdened by the taxes that we are currently paying that disadvantages all citizens of Lapeer County. They do not provide for our families as they should. The challenge with a situation like this is the reluctance to dive into the details by the politicians that we currently have in place. With the resources at hand, the state has a huge amount available to them, but they squandered that money. If a family squandered that same type of money, they would be in trouble. They won't thrive, and they certainly wouldn't create opportunities for their family. As you can see in some of my literature in the back, I have the state budget in place. If you take a look at that, the five top departments within the state budget accounts for 86% of the state's funding. That's in health and human services, school aid, transportation, corrections, and higher education. So let's focus all our efforts on those top 5 departments, taking good problem-solving techniques to be able to really reduce drive efficiencies in the highest level of quality possible for the taxes that we do pay. These are the most basic steps in problem solving. I look forward to the questions from our friends and neighbors here. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. I'm trying to kind of combine a lot of the questions that were asked. First question, I'm going to start with Mr. Adams. Mr. Adams, if you're fortunate enough to be elected state representative, what do you see as your first 3 priorities to benefit the citizens of Lapeer County and the state of Michigan if you go to the State House?
First priority would be identifying transparency in the flaws and problems within our transportation and road budget. I'm sorry, thank you. I'd identify and work towards transparency within our roads budget. There was monies in these funds. I believe they robbed Peter to pay Paul. Peter made a police report. They said you shouldn't have left the windows open on your car. The money was there. As funding goes, we've got 19 cents a dollar as 19 cents a gallon as a fixed tax, our sales tax of 6% on that, a number of other variable federal funds within that, identifying where those funds are going and possibly considering a portion of the sales tax on gasoline to be included into the transportation budget. First priority there. Second priority is identifying the needs for our families, working within DHS, Department of Human Services, which was now combined with time.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Courser, same question.
I appreciate that. When I ran the first time, I said that I wouldn't vote for a tax increase or a spending increase. And I went to Lansing and did it. It's easy to say when you're a Republican you're not going to vote for a tax increase or a spending increase when you run for office. It's hell to do it when you get to Lansing. On the first day you're there, they take you in the back room, everybody agrees, and they break the law when they go out in front of the public. The next thing they do, they take you off site, they have you go to a caucus meeting, and they have you sign an agreement that says you pledge your vote to the Speaker of the House, not to your district. That's what they do. You have to expose these things. That's what I did. I continue to do it. If you send me back, I'm going to continue to do it. If you want somebody that plays nice, that'll continue to go along to get along, if that's what you're looking for, there's plenty of people here. If you want someone that will continue to expose it, that's what I do. I had the best record for votes in the State House, bar none. I'll continue to give you that as your representative.
My number 1 priority would be holding the line on taxes. I don't know about the other candidates, but I've signed the Americans for Tax Reform Taxpayer Protection Pledge, vowing to never vote for any tax increase. We're all against increasing taxes, but it is different when you get there to Lansing. Even the governor wants you to vote for tax increases sometimes, and he's a Republican and who I normally agree with, but not on everything. The second thing would be to hold the line on spending. There's a whole army of lobbyists in Lansing whose whole professional job is to get the government to spend more money on their special interest projects. And the third thing would be constituent service, taking care of people's problems that they have in Lansing with the bureaucracy.
My 3 priorities, excuse me, I have a cold. One is to be the voice of the people of Lapeer County. By listening to all sides of the issues, you cannot represent your community if you're only listening to those that have your same views. You have to use your due diligence by listening and investigating all issues. Second, I would do my best to build a strong foundation for both our county and our state. A strong foundation, as you know, with a home, you have to have a strong foundation. That's your starting point. This includes fixing our roads and bridges smartly, making sure that our schools are well funded, and making sure that we're providing adequate services to our seniors and veterans. And third, I want to bring competence, cooperation, and ethics back to Lansing. We need to have bipartisanship in our state in order to achieve the goals that we all want to see happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Weil?
My top 3 priorities are education, roads, and jobs, jobs, jobs. This county needs them desperately, and one way, great way to expand the tax base is to put more people to work. And that's one thing that we have to do. When I talk about education, we really have to focus, I think, on higher education and making that higher education available to every qualified graduating senior from our high schools. It's only through that type of education that we're going to have people qualified to take these new jobs that we'd like to bring into this county, more high-tech jobs, and I think those jobs are important to this county, as well as getting people the education to fill those jobs. And we can do it.
Mr. Guerrero?
One of the first things I'd like to do is look at to what types of regulations that are in place right now that are limiting our ability to be economically competitive, you know, including certain situations that townships can regulate and put out businesses that operate out of their homes, and smaller type businesses that can't afford to compete. You know, I hear a lot of the bigger corporations and people involved in them say compliance is cheaper than competition. I think that's wrong. I'd like to preserve farmland by introducing some sort of legislation that would be similar to the PA 116, which protected farmers, but also handcuffed them to a 10-year contract as well. I think that's an important thing to look at, as well as organizing our funds in the state in a common sense way. Right now, they take dime here, and a dime over here, and a dime over here, so much that it's hard to get anything done.
Thank you. Mr. Howell?
My 3 priorities are: first, fix the roads; secondly, enhance and improve vocational education; and thirdly, rid our state of burdensome and unnecessary regulations. If you're going to fix the roads, you got to find the money. The money is there. The waste in Lansing is incredible, and nobody is watching over it. As an example, the MDOT wasted $10 million of your taxpayer dollars to lease rail cars for a rail line that was never finished. $10 million they wasted completely. They could have fixed the roads. $10 million, again, they wasted on this ridiculous election we had a while back on so-called Proposition 1, the biggest tax grab they've tried in years. They tried to label it a road tax. In fact, it was a tax and shift for a whole lot of non-road purposes. Let's spend the money on the roads and quit horsing around. They don't need a $130 million Senate office building. The Republicans did that, by the way, and I'm abhor that situation. The Republicans passed it. It should never been done.
Thank you. Mr. Kempf?
Yes, thank you. You know, the first 3 priorities, the number one has to be roads. Quite frankly, it should have been done a long time ago. The money is there. I do support the House road proposition or road bill. You know, plus I also support moving the 6% sales tax on gas over about a 3-year period onto the dedicated to roads. Secondly, job creation. Government does not create jobs. The only thing government can do is set up an environment to be favorable towards jobs. That's something we really need to do as a small business person in Emily City. I believe that's paramount to creating jobs. Something like 70% of the jobs are held in small business, and we need to focus on that. The third thing would be the overregulation. You know, and this goes from, quite frankly, the top down. We've done a lot of work in the county to curb overregulation in things that we can control. But quite frankly, when you have municipalities out there that are charging you for a permit because you want to replace a broken window in your house, things have gone just a little bit too far. Thank you.
All good candidates. And all I can say is Einstein had a line that said, if you continue to do things the same way and expect different results, that is the definition of insanity. Although I don't agree with Todd Courser on a lot of things, he's probably correct that we are corrupt in Lansing. We definitely are corrupt in the national government. My plan, or at least the things that I want to do if I get elected and go to Lansing, is be the voice of reason, of some sanity, such that we actually do the things we say we're going to do. My number one priority for the county of Lapeer is job creation. If people, entry-level employment opportunities from high school onto some new job skill that can be a career, put people in the tax rolls, which allow us to increase our revenue. Thank you.
My top three priorities, as I said in my opening statement, would be to create jobs. Our unemployment rate is 8%. That's way too much. We need to eliminate unfunded mandates and decrease regulations for our small businesses. We need to fix the roads, because without good roads, we're not going to have industry and businesses come to Michigan. We're not going to have tourism want to come to Michigan. And being a nurse, I would do as much as I could to scale back Obamacare and our Medicaid expansion, because I know how it affects my patients, and it's also affecting small businesses with the mandates placed on them. So those would be my top three issues I would work on.
I'm going to sound like a broken record, but roads, that was a year and a half ago. It's the same still. The second thing, again, would be jobs, and the Lapeer County Press did report that the jobless rate improved to 6.7% here in Lapeer County. But we're still the highest among the other counties around us. I would promote small business and agriculture and manufacturing in the county. The third thing would be manufacturing with education. The Ed Tech Center is a great place to have colleges come in, be a hub to train, give training to our manufacturers, and get those students and adults a job and be able to work that way. Thank you.
Well, I would hope by May 8th, when one of us are seated, that they have the roads fixed by then, or the road situation. But my top priorities would be, one, is to dig into the details and really push the career bureaucrats on gaining efficiencies within any one of those top 5 departments. The second would be to listen to all sides. You know, both the Democrat and Republican side, they all have good ideas. But until people bring evidence and really bring data to actually discuss these things with some level of detail, nothing is really going to get done, and it's very difficult to make that decision within the government. And then two, it is to bring that message back to the Republican, or back to the Lapeer County residents, so you guys truly understand why decisions are made and where the money is being spent. And then the third is to end up really working through as much of the detail on all of the topics as possible. Thank you.
The next question is a compilation of 4 or 5 questions. In light of the recent school shootings yesterday in Oregon, what would you do, if anything, in regards to the CPL laws here in the state of Michigan, gun-free zones? Any thoughts in regards to what legislation, anything you would do as a response to what happened in Oregon, Mr. Courser?
Well, I think obviously my perspective is that we, you know, when you infringe upon the Second Amendment, that's where the problems come in. Obviously, I co-sponsored the constitutional carry bill. I'm a guy who believes that gun-free zones are the problem. They're not the solution. So essentially what you need is you need to allow people to exercise their Second Amendment rights, to be able to carry. You need to end gun-free zones. You need to allow people to be able to carry. You need to end handgun registrations. And you need to fall back on the Constitution is our right to carry in this country. Thank you.
The reason why these terrible shootings keep happening at colleges and schools is because often they're gun-free zones and they know that no one's going to shoot back at them. Our state senator, Mike Green, has some legislation that would expand the places where law-abiding citizens can carry concealed weapons, and I support that.
You know, I'm talking about the bill that our Senator Green and Senator Pavlov tried pushing through a few years back with regards to the open carry and CPLs. My question was, why did this bill not include the Michigan legislative chambers or our courthouses? That they want to allow guns to be carried in schools, in churches, in bars, in sports arenas, but you didn't include our Michigan chambers, our legislative chambers, or our courthouses. These decisions, and let me take a step back and say that I support the Second Amendment. I'm married to a police officer. We have many guns in our home. I probably have the most guns in my home than everybody on this panel. However, guns, you have to make smart decisions with it. Do I believe that you should have a CPL license that you can open carry in schools? I don't. I don't. And I take that stance on the basis of a parent.
Thank you.
Why don't we enforce the laws that are already on the books? That's first. Second, close the loopholes at gun shows where they don't require background checks. Close the loopholes on the internet where they don't require background checks. Let's make sure that if we're selling somebody a gun, that we're not selling it to a Looney Tune. Let's make sure we're not selling it to a domestic abuser or a criminal. I've owned guns all my life, but responsible gun ownership is what we have to focus on. Absolutely and without question. Enforce the law, close the loopholes.
In my opinion, the Second Amendment is your right to bear arms. Gun-free zones, it's scary that a shooter, an active shooter, can go into a place knowing everybody's unarmed. That's scary to me. And, you know, what they said before is including, you know, the state houses. And again, there are laws in place that protect you from possessing a gun while you're on, you know, under the influence of alcohol. Those things are common sense. In a bar, you know, things like that. Again, if you're not consuming alcohol and you're doing it in a legal manner, your Second Amendment is your right.
I would not support any additional gun regulations. I believe the United States Constitution, Second Amendment, answers that question. We are guaranteed the right to bear arms. I think if you're going to have regulation, it's got to come on the side of making sure the mentally deficient, the criminal elements, and persons who should not be having weapons are prevented from having them, not regulating guns themselves. I think the fundamental problem is rural versus urban. Growing up on a farm and raising my son and my grandchildren on farms, we're used to guns. We have them for protection, for hunting, for lots of good purposes. The urban world views guns in a different way. In the urban world, they see guns as a criminal matter, and I think that's the fundamental split in America between the pro-gun people and the anti-gun people. Representing Lapeer County, I believe we have all the gun regulations we need. We just need to keep them out of the hands of the nutcases.
Well, I do support Senator Green's most recent version of his gun bill, and I support the changes that it made. I think it made a lot of sense, and it brought a lot more education to those people that want to conceal carry. But I also think there's a more important thing here, and we keep continuing to talk about schools. Joe DeLuca is a school liaison officer in Emily City, and hats off to your service, Joe. When I grew up, it was John Palacios, who was a really good friend of mine and remained a good friend of mine for the rest of his days. I really think that one of the things that we need to do is, and I think that Joe would attest to the importance of this, is we need to have school liaison officers in all of our schools. Now, maybe we don't need one for every school. Joe handles all the Emily City schools. But I really think that's something that's very important and that we should be funding right up there with funding teachers. Thank you.
Yeah, how unfortunate what happened in the Northwest United States. I'm a Second Amendment advocate, also a member of the NRA. I go deer hunting every year with most of my family. I will tell you that people kill people. Guns don't kill people. A spray bottle of gasoline could do almost the same amount of damage. What we really have to do is understand how these elements of society can get high-powered weapons, can get ammunition, can get anything like that. In the meantime, by the way, I said try and understand. I didn't say pass any more legislation. I actually think we have enough gun legislation, and like one of my counterparts here, enforce the laws we currently have. Thank you.
I, too, strongly support the Second Amendment and come from a family of hunters. I don't hunt because I couldn't be quiet that long in the woods, so I try not. I support them, though, bow hunting and rifle season. But also I think we have to look at, one of the gentlemen said here, we got to look at mental illness. I don't feel that restrictions on our right to carry a firearm to law-abiding owners, gun owners, is going to stop our criminals. We have 2 sanctuary cities in our state, Ann Arbor and, I forgot the other one. Ann Arbor and Muskegon, I believe it is. But I don't, we had, San Francisco is a sanctuary-free city, and we have an illegal immigrant that killed a young woman there. So we need to eliminate that and just follow the laws that we have. Thank you.
I'm also a supporter of the Second Amendment. It's like a broken record with Republicans, I think. And I support Senator Green's legislation. I think actually now it's not open carry, but it's still concealed, because where are all these shootings happening? They're happening where the guns aren't. They know that. And I feel that it's so important for safety of kids, of people in church worshiping, wherever you may be, to feel safe. That's it. Thanks.
And I, too, am a supporter of the Second Amendment. I have a brother that's a police officer. And the thing I would really want to try to understand is I have never seen a report that kind of takes in and encompasses all of these different events that have happened in our country the past 5, 10 years it's gone back. And I have never seen a report that says, all right, we're going to really study what's going on with these guys' heads, that they're actually going out and doing this. What's actually encouraging them to do it, and really get a comprehensive look at what's happening across the country, because obviously it's happening in different areas, different pockets all the time. But you would hope that there was some thread that we could actually understand and be able to then devise some sort of scheme to keep these things from happening again. But if anybody does have an idea, if there's a report out there, I'd sure like to take a look at it. Thank you.
Please give the mic from Mr. Adams. No, he's got to answer.
I get to answer next.
Then
okay?
The next question goes, yeah, correct, Mr. Adams. You answer.
Absolutely for Second Amendment rights. I'm a gun owner. I think we should open up gun-free zones. I don't think it's the good guys that are carrying guns that are licensed that are out there doing it. I think a key problem here is mental health. We're not talking about nut jobs. It's not sane people that go around killing people and abusing privileges in communities like this. The changes within the mental health system and within our state that are going to suffer because of the combination of both mental health and Department of Human Services I'm very concerned about, and I'm not willing to politicize this, much like the police chief in that township that refuses to acknowledge the gunman's name. I would prefer to talk about as many lives that are lost every year in drunk driving accidents, far more than gun accidents, but we don't seem to legislate that anymore, nor do we throw out alcohol laws or increase things like that. As a matter of fact, there are more children that die every day in this country through child abuse than they do through weapons. We need no more legislation. Enforce those on the books.
Thank you. Next question, starting with Mr. Davison. Mr. Davison, would you tweak or adjust the term limits that are currently in place dealing with the state House, the state Senate, and the executive branch at the state level?
If I had the power over term limits, I would get rid of them entirely. I know there's a lot of Tea Party folks who don't feel that way, who you want to regulate politicians and keep them from being out of control, but every 6 years we got to pick a new person, and you start running out of experienced people. We have term limits. They're called elections. We can throw anybody out anytime we want to. If you keep the term limits on the politicians, the lobbyists and the special interests, they don't have term limits. They stay in Lansing, and after a while they start telling all these new people how things work and what they're supposed to do because they've got the experience and your elected officials don't. So,
thank you. Ms. Guerrero?
Well, kind of what Mr. Davison said. So some would say term limits, are bad, that we need to be able to have that person there with the experience that they can stay and bring so we're not changing the doors, getting people through the door so quickly. And some would say that term limits they're set in place by you electing who you choose to have represent you. Those are conversations that need to be had, and those are conversations that citizens need to give their input to. The Tea Party does ask that. They are against term limits and so on, and they state the reasons why, or for term limits, excuse me. However, the more pressing case is exploring how we can make our government better with what we have now in place. So with the limits that we have now, how can we make sure that when we are handing the baton to the next person, that they are well informed?
Term limits. I like them. The founding fathers loved them. And that was the general idea when they put this grand experiment together over 200 years ago. People weren't supposed to make a career out of this. This was supposed to be a sabbatical from what you did in your regular life. You took the time to represent your friends and neighbors, either in the state capitol or in the federal government, but you did that for a little bit, you quit, and you went home. That's the way the founders set it up, and that's the way we should continue to do it. Fresh eyes, fresh blood is always a positive thing when we're working together.
Yeah, what he said. I completely agree. I'd like to expand on it and like to see certain laws that have sunsets on them as well. So I'd like to see some term limits on some of the laws that are in place. Right now we are over-regulated to the point that there's no respect for the law anymore. We need to dial those back and have certain term limits on laws as well as the politicians enacting them.
I absolutely support term limits. I think they're an excellent step in democracy. We do not need a professional political class. As a matter of fact, many of the problems we're talking about are because we've had a professional political class that stays in office for year after year after year. I'm running for the legislature. It's a 6-year term limit. That's plenty. I've worked 40 years in my legal profession. I've worked 50 years as a farmer. I'm done. I've retired. I can give 6 years to the community. That's the way it should be. This is not meant to be a job you make a living off of. It's not meant to be a job you retire from. There's way too much of that stuff in America. I would go beyond term limits. I advocate a part-time legislature. I led a petition drive in 2008. Those guys are spending way too damn much time in Lansing. We'd be better off if they were back here working than they're down there eating lunch with the lobbyists, being wined and dined by the governor and the administration. We need to put an end to that. If they're down there for 3 to 6 months, that's plenty. We're better off if they don't pass any more laws.
Well, I also support term limits. I do believe that we have a little bit too much of a good thing. I would really like to see something introduced that either gave 8 or 12 years on either side of the building, and then you were done. I also do support the part-time legislature, and you know, I believe that there are a lot of good people sitting up here tonight. I don't know them all, but I've talked to a number of them, and I know some of them very personally. I think everybody that's sitting up here tonight would be up here if we had a part-time legislature. I think they're here for the right reasons. I don't think that would matter. Sometimes they say, well, if you had a part-time legislature, you wouldn't get quality people. I totally disagree with that. I do believe we should go to 4 years for the House and 4 years for the Senate, and either go to an 8 or a 12-year accumulative term. Thank you.
Well, I agree with my counterparts with the one exception. I think we should suspend term limits and make it a part-time legislature where it is much more voluntary. If you're not there to make a living, I think it would be a different endeavor for those who want to get involved in politics. I sometimes look back on my own life and say, I know a lot of people that are 35, 39 years old, they very much would like to get into politics, but two things. They can't afford the time and they can't afford the pay. And if we want more qualified people in there, then we have to make this more voluntary. We have to allow them to develop a career in policy where they come back and they have to work in the community. Thank you.
I support term limits also. Honestly, I'd like to see them at the federal level. We had a congressman named Dingell, and he was there a long time, and now his wife's there. So I think that we need to look at that too. As far as I would support a part-time legislature if term limits were expanded. My concern with that would be the voice of the people would be gone, and a lot of power would be given to the governor's office. Representative Daley was a perfect example of what a full-time state house representative does. He was in Lansing. He was there for your calls. He was in the community. So that would be my concern, that the voice of the people would be taken away. And that's where my stance is on that.
What is considered part-time? Because aren't they in session only 3 days a week? With like 3 times a year they get a vacation for several weeks? That to me is already part-time. I think they need to condense their time in Lansing and spend more time in their areas and listen to the people. I do agree with extending the term limits, because 2 years to run, you're in there for how long, and then you have to start thinking about campaigning again to stay and keep your job. So I do agree with that. Cut the salaries too. They're part-time. Thank you.
Again, I would support term limits, an extension of the term limits themselves, and also a part-time legislature. The trick would be with the part-time, it would be how aggressive the representative would have to be to make sure that he stays on top of what goes on in Lansing, and making sure you hold the bureaucrats at task and forcing them to really pay attention to your constituents back at the home county. Thank you.
Mirroring all of my colleagues up here, I do also support term limits. I think it's an effective limitation on that career. The wonderful thing, though, is that everybody doesn't change over every 2 years. You've got a nice staggering effect. You've got people that learn how the system works. They can help develop the freshmen that come in and move through. So I think we've got an effective system right now. I believe the original question was, would you tweak the system that we have? No, I'd leave it alone. I'd focus more on being competent and effective and open and clearing the air and showing the integrity that's necessary to work within the office.
I think it's a balance, obviously, between the idea of term limits versus the idea of part-time legislature. Texas meets every other year. They seem to do just fine. Part-time legislature meaning very part-time. So I think there are some adjustments that we can do as well. I agree with the part-time legislature idea. I ran on it. Also, the idea of extending term limits. It's really important to understand, this is just from my experience of being there, is that what you have is you have the oldest people in the House have 6 years experience. So what you have is a concentration of power. That's what you have. You have the Speaker of the House controlling everything. Control the agenda, they control who serves on what committees, whether your bill gets moved, whether your bill doesn't get moved, whether you get funding for your next campaign. So as you decide that you're going to have term limits, understand that all of that power is going to be accumulated somewhere. Right now it's in the Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority Leader, and the Governor. So you have to kind of look at that as you shorten the time frame where people have any understanding. What's going to happen, obviously, is it's going to change the power structure.
Thank you. Next question is going to for Ms. Guerrero DeLuca. It's been suggested from the audience that some of the people in the back weren't here when you first identified yourself, so state your name and then give your answer as you're giving it. The next question is, what is your position, or do you have a position, on the movement to legalize marijuana in the state of Michigan?
My name is Margaret Guerrero DeLuca, and I am a Democrat. My position on legalizing marijuana is I believe that if the citizens of Lapeer County and the state of Michigan feel that that should be explored, then we should explore it. We realize that we have other states. We're not creating the wheel, I should say. We have other states that we can look to and see what they did, what worked, what didn't work. We know that there are cities out there, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, and so on, who have already reduced the misdemeanors for possession with marijuana in a small quantity for personal use. So we've already seen different communities that are aggressively, proactively looking for ways to combat the use of marijuana. We've already passed it for medicinal, and I think that was outstanding.
Thank you. Mr. Dewilde? Identify yourself, please, sir.
Hi, I'm Jim Dewilde. The only reason I can see to legalize marijuana would be for medicinal purposes. Other than that, there's plenty of other stuff out there that you can buy and get you high. You know. However, if they treated marijuana the way they treated alcohol, you'd certainly remove the criminal element from it, which might be beneficial to everybody. So I have mixed feelings about it. I'll be real honest with you. I'm not one of those people that drinks or smokes marijuana. So I'm just naturally this way. So. But
thank you. Mr. Guerrero, you want to identify yourself? You may proceed.
I'm Rick Guerrero. You know, one of the things I believe in is the Founding Fathers grew hemp in a time that at the nation's founding, until the prohibitions came in and criminalized this item. Me, as a libertarian, I believe in that it's not the government's place to protect me from myself. Saying that, states that have produced medical marijuana laws have seen from Newsweek a 25% drop in painkiller deaths. In our community, those type of numbers are very important to get down from the sky-high spot that they're at right now. Also, Colorado, in 2014, has seen a revenue of $61.3 million in 1 year. There's a little bit of help for the roads, you know. So, you know, I'm not all for, you know, seeing open intoxicants or anything like that.
Thank you.
So.
Mr. Howell?
My name is Gary Howell, and I am not a Democrat. I do not support the legalization of marijuana. I don't even believe it's a legitimate debate. Federal law makes it illegal to possess or use marijuana. That's a fact. The states have no business contradicting the federal statute. When and if the federal government changes the law, we can talk about it. Right now, it should not be done, period.
My name's Ian Kempf, and I am not in favor of legalizing recreational marijuana at all. A lot of people say that it's just, it's just another step from alcohol. I have a brother-in-law who's a doctor in Colorado. If you really want to see the effect or know the effect of what legalizing marijuana does, talk to the doctors, and they will tell you it is not a good thing. We don't need to take that next step. I do believe we need to look at the sentencing requirements and look more into treatment and education, but I'm not in favor of legalizing it. Thank you.
I'm not in favor of legalizing
Identify
it.
yourself,
oh,
please.
I'm sorry. Allan Landosky. I'm not in favor of legalizing it, and I think we heard some of the news here, but one of the things is for medical purposes, I think it could be doled out as a prescription, but not as recreational substance. You know, you can't land an airplane, dock a ship, or pass it through the SULOCs if you are convicted of a federal felony or even a misdemeanor of holding a substance or a substance abuse. And for that reason, I would say until the feds change the law, Michigan probably does not want to interfere with that except on a medical basis only.
I do not support.
Identify yourself.
Jan Peabody, and I'm a Republican also. I do not support legalizing marijuana. I didn't support them legalizing it for medical uses. Being a nurse, I've seen how it can be abused, which can lead to other things. We've had a heroin problem in our county in the past, and being a nurse, I've seen the abuse of prescribed medications and narcotics. So I don't support legalizing recreational use of marijuana.
Sharna Cramer Smith. I would vote no for the recreational use. I think it leads to negative effects of your brain. I think it would lead to maybe harder use of other drugs down the road. But I do support it for medical purposes. I think different things work for different people, and when you're desperate and in pain, by all means try it. I always thought, though, it should be regulated by the pharmacy. It should be a Schedule II drug, just like a narcotic would be. So I've never really understood why all these people have the marijuana cards and that kind of thing. So I would not support recreational use. Thank you.
My name's Chris Tuski, and I have to admit I don't have any practical experience in this area. But I'd have to agree with Mr. Howell on this, that it is the federal law, and it's like there is no real discussion, in my opinion, on a state level until that actually gets changed. So I am not in support of anything to do with legalizing marijuana. Thank you.
No, I don't support legalizing marijuana. We've talked about heroin overdoses. Our legislature just pushed through, without medical advice, authorizing Narcan in all medical first responders and police officers without proper training of that. And that's just to help those that are already struggling with drug abuse. There are some that say lowering the limits or decriminalizing things will make it less of a treat or a threat, and it'll make that. No, I'm against it. I don't stand for it, and I wouldn't support it. I also echo the other gentlemen up here that have spoken about the federal laws, and we have to understand that the banking laws are very particular to that, and it's been very difficult in Denver and throughout the country to actually even process the money involved in marijuana growing, use, and sales. And it's putting industry in complete harm's way.
Thank you.
Well, this is where my social conservatism and my fiscal conservatism kind of clash, because you have to just kind of decide how much government you want to afford. And so I myself, I've never used marijuana. I don't smoke. I don't drink. But I do think that in the libertarian side of me, it's not my business to decide what other people do with themselves. So when I look at that, I didn't push for legalization of marijuana, but also I didn't stand in its way. I'll tell you why, because if we have a law that we decide that these folks are going to go to jail and they're going to go to prison, it costs me $40,000 a year because these people are using marijuana. And so from my perspective as a fiscal conservative in looking at that, there's just way too much money, and you can decide how much government you want, but when you're looking at it, there's a huge fiscal cost for the idea of imprisoning people who are using or transporting or being involved in marijuana. So you just have to decide for yourself. But from my perspective, it's not really the government's business, and they shouldn't be involved in it.
My name is Jake Davison. I'm a Republican from Mayfield Township, and I'm 100% for legalizing marijuana. The reason why it's a gateway drug is because it's illegal, and to get it, you have to deal with someone who's also dealing heroin or meth or cocaine or other things that actually destroy families. If we legalized it, we could regulate it more than we currently do. You'd have to go to a store. You'd have to show that you're at least 21. We could regulate how powerful it is. I mean, no, I don't think anyone should smoke marijuana. It just makes you stupid for a while. I mean, that's the same thing with alcohol. Alcohol's far more powerful and destructive, but we've learned in the 20s banning it is actually worse than regulating it to the extent that we can.
Mr. Dewilde, next question to you, sir. I've had several questions. Basically, they're asking, what do you feel that there recently 65 individuals at the state level have been laid off who work for the MEDC, that's the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Do you think that was something positive, negative, in the light that that corporation was supposed to help create jobs in the state of Michigan? What's your position on that?
Well, for one who volunteered for a year with the Tuski County Economic Development Corporation, I think any organization that helps create jobs, trains people to take more technical jobs, to take higher paying jobs, is an organization that we sorely need. Laying people off who are there to help others, it's just not good business sense in my estimation.
Mr. Guerrero, you want to identify yourself? You may proceed.
I'm sorry. Can I get the question one more?
Sure. Recently, at least 65 individuals have been laid off at the state level who work for what's known as the MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, whose goal is to encourage outside business to relocate in Michigan, create jobs, things of that nature. They laid off at least, according to this card, 65 individuals. What's your position on that, if any?
Well, my position, not to avoid the question, but certain situations where we incentivize the film industry to come into Michigan of $25 million, when we have other shortfalls in our budget, I don't find that acceptable. You know, the free market needs to work in its best sense and make our state more competitive by dialing down the regulations. Also inclusive to reforming our education to what our Lapeer ISD is doing, encouraging young workers into blue-collar type jobs and not discouraging them, saying that, you know, a blue-collar job is not a worthwhile career. So I would like to see more programs like what the Lapeer County ISD does for trades.
Gary Howell. I have a hard time feeling that 65 less state employees is a bad thing. We have entirely too much government, and we spend way too much time trying to pick winners and losers in state government when it comes to jobs and job creation. I'm glad that Rick mentioned ISD because I'm president of the school board at the ISD, and our main function is the vocational programs, along with special ed. If we're going to put money out through the government, put it in vocational education. Let us train young people to get good-paying jobs. We can do that. We do it now. If we had better funding for that, it'd be far better than trying to decide which multinational corporation gets the next benefit out of our state taxpayers' pockets. Those jobs are out there. They need to be trained for. We're doing it here in Lapeer. We could do a better job if we had better funding and better support from the state level. That's where that money should be going, not to more big corporations that want subsidies.
The effectiveness
Your
of
name, please.
I'm sorry, Ian Kempf. The effectiveness of MEDC's corporate welfare is questionable at best. We have locally, we have an LEDC. It's not that we don't need programs to set up a good business climate. We just don't need to be in the business of picking winners and losers. Several years ago, Vlasic was going to leave town. It was Friday night. I got a call from the general manager. Our local LEDC was handling that. I turned around and called Representative Daley, sitting in Mortimer's parking lot. Kevin didn't know anything about it. Now, he did take it from there and get Department of Ag involved, and we ended up saving the plant. However, MEDC needs much, much more transparency, and they need to work with the other departments. No one knew anything about it because MEDC was the only one who had the information. They held on to it tight.
Thank you.
The little I know about
Sir,
I'm
identify.
sorry, Allan Landosky, Republican. The little I know about MEDC is, I have to agree, we don't need any more state employees. In the grand scheme of things in business, I don't think 65 people are that critical to the operation of that department. However, I would say that the business ethos of running MEDC has to stay in existence. Business is critical to the state of Michigan for any growth, especially on the revenue side.
My name's Jan Peabody. I'm a Republican. Yeah, people were upset about the layoffs at the MEDC, but I wasn't. It wasn't a bad thing. I believe the best way to create jobs is slashing taxes, streamlining government, decreasing regulations, decreasing unfunded mandates, and we need more transparency, though, from the MEDC.
Sharna Cramer Smith. The MEDC was, I think, brought about by the Granholm administration. And under her care, 4 out of 8 green companies that were given money went bankrupt. Wasteful spending. A convicted felon was approved $1.9 million to start his green company. Transparency, Mr. Kempf said, definitely. But there was I think they were being given like $50 million, and that has been cut in half to $25 million because they're not giving the film subsidies as they were before. But I am sorry that people lost their jobs. I don't care if you're a state employee or what, you've lost your job, and I'm sorry for that.
My name is Chris Tuski, and the Talent and Economic Development Group is accounted for $1.2 billion worth of state budget. And the 65 people that actually did lose their jobs, I would tend to argue that they probably weren't value added, and that actually this is a good time to actually lose your job within our economy. It's starting on the rise, and they would probably, hopefully, tend to find other jobs. I think we should be more aggressive in weeding out people that aren't value added within the state, especially when times are good within our state or getting better, that there's other jobs that can be found in the private sector where they should be.
Good evening. Russ Adams still trying to get through this night. Great opinions. It's very difficult to differentiate myself from many of these. 65 people losing their jobs. I do look at the faces. I try and understand what that feels like. I know I've been laid off before, and it's a very difficult thing being a family man. But understanding that state government is such, and it appears that that department was burgeoning with funds and employees, I would have hoped that maybe they could have saved the 100 they laid off in DHS when they combined those so that they could be on the street, reaching our kids, helping those that are in need with mental health deficiency and shortcomings that we have all around us. So No, I'm not really frowning that 65 people in that agency lost their jobs. I'm frowning that they lost their jobs and they weren't able to reallocate those funds for the needs of our communities to strengthen the families around us.
And well, one of my first steps in the State House was to enter a bill to end the MEDC, to shut it down. It's basically a pig trough for corporations, big connected corporations that are politically connected. That's the deal. Basically, at this point, you're on the hook. I think it's for mega credits up to $9 or $10 billion of corporate pork that will be paid out to corporations going forward. It's really just it's another entitlement for those people who give to certain campaigns and protect certain political interests. So from my perspective, it's absolutely critical that you shut that down. You create a level playing field, allow the marketplace to determine through the free markets winners and losers. You need a low tax base. You need to make sure there's low regulation. Businesses will come here. We have great workers. We have great industrial backbone. There's no reason that we don't have people coming here. We don't need to incentivize certain corporations to come here as opposed to other corporations. So I'm absolutely committed to the idea of ending the MEDC. Thank you.
Yeah, we should get rid of most.
Mr. Davison, you want to done? I tell Mr.
Again.
Courser, but his face has been in the paper so much recently. I think everybody knows him. Mr. Davison, go ahead.
Jake Davison, Republican from Mayfield Township. I think we should get rid of most of the MEDC. I'd like to get rid of all of it in a perfect world, but we can't unilaterally disarm. If we get rid of all of our ability to provide tax breaks for certain businesses, Ohio, Indiana, other states will come in here. They'll come right to the GM plant in Lake Orion and say, hey, we'll give you no taxes for 10 years, move all your stuff. And they did that to a plant in Willow Run in 1992. They just, Texas straight up just took that plant away because we didn't have the flexibility to match them at all. But most of the MEDC is just a boondoggle where you're just shifting, pouring water from one end of the pool into the other. So most of it should go.
Ms. Guerrero DeLuca.
Hi, Margaret Guerrero DeLuca. As a former mayor of Emily City and city commissioner, I can attest to the fact that our Emily City economic development team is doing an outstanding job in our local community. You've been through Emily City over the last 6 years. You've seen that. You've witnessed that. As far as our state MEDC, yes, as Mr. Kempf said, they need transparency. That was their major problem. The corporate welfare of tax subsidies and so on going towards large corporations, it has to stop. It does. We need to find a more equitable way that we can still encourage business and still encourage companies to move here or to retain here, but it has to be fair and equitable. And furthermore, I really believe that the state money should be transferred to our local municipalities. We have transparency. Your elected officials are sitting over the economic development committees, and we're making decisions together of how to improve our communities.
Thank you. Next question is to Mr. Guerrero. Mr. Guerrero, do you support mandatory vaccinations or some form of freedom of choice?
I do not support mandatory vaccinations. My kids are all vaccinated, but I find it quite scary to me that the will of the people, the majority, can shove whatever medications and vaccinations into someone that does not want to have them. My opinion, if you want to live in a bubble, feel free, but you're not going to force myself or my family into one by the will of the majority.
I don't think mandatory vaccinations are the answer. Certainly, I vaccinated my son, and our grandchildren are all vaccinated. However, I think the answer is education. I think vaccination, if it's a good thing, it's incumbent upon those pushing it to explain exactly why it is important for the community and for the children. But I don't believe it should be mandatory.
Well, I don't either believe that it should be mandatory. We know a number of people who, most of our friends have vaccinated their children. Some have not, and I believe that's their choice. I think it's quite frankly, a constitutional issue, and they should have the choice.
Allan Landosky, Republican. Got it right. I would want to study this a little bit more, but I will tell you this. I look at it like this. If you want to use state services, if you want to go to a state university, if you want to be a licensed professional engineer or whatever, then, or a pilot, and you have to interface with other people, I think you should be vaccinated. And again, I'll fall back on this other comment over here. More education and less fear-mongering about what the adverse effects of vaccinations are would probably go a long ways in eliminating this issue.
No, I don't support
Jan Peabody?
Jan Peabody. I don't support mandatory vaccinations. It's a choice. It's a parent's choice. It's an adult's choice. I worked for years at the health department, and there was not one parent that came in and we made them get a vaccination. There's a waiver that every parent or every adult can sign if their vaccination is required to enter school or college. So I don't support that.
Cramer Smith. I also do not believe in mandatory vaccinations. It's kind of funny when you hear the news, the media tells you one day that the coffee is good for you, the next day the coffee is not good for you. You know, all of that. I think more knowledge, more education needs to be, it's an important thing for families to be educated about this, but I still believe it's a choice. Thank you.
Chris Tuski here, and I do not support mandatory vaccinations. I think that's a decision that needs to be made between the parents and their doctor with that type of consultation, and that government intervention into the families. I have a family of 4 with 4 children, and it's my wife and I's decision on what happens to our children. Thank you.
Hi, Russ Adams, Republican. There's much more at stake here than individual freedoms. I wouldn't say that I support mandatory vaccinations. When we talk about education, that waiver that you're allowed to sign, you're now required to go in and be counseled before you can sign it, and the children are not required to be present. There's difficulties with that. In addition to that, because of vaccinations, diseases like measles are no longer prevalent. We had an issue at Disneyland 2 years ago, an outbreak of measles. They were trying to figure out what it was. At the same time, we were talking about Ebola. Ebola is a gruesome, horrible, ugly death. Measles is worse, and it's much more contagious. If I had measles right now and you didn't know it, those in the back of the room would be contaminated already, just by me breathing in this atmosphere. So education is crucial to understand.
Thank you.
The fact that we're having a debate about whether or not you can inject somebody with something against their will, I think says something terrible about our country. It's a free country. Last time I checked, this is the United States of America. This isn't the USSR. So, no way. I mean, you shouldn't have the right to vaccinate people against their will.
Mr. Davison.
Jake Davison from Mayfield Township, Republican. I understand there's been some outbreaks of, I think, measles in California because of low vaccination rates. As far as I know, I'm not aware of smallpox or measles breaking out in Michigan. If that becomes a problem, maybe we have to say, well, if you don't get vaccinated, you can't, just like you have to have a driver's license to drive a car. It's not your right as an American to drive a car no matter what. It's something you have to get a license for. But right now, I don't see the reason to force people to get vaccinations.
Hi, Margaret, Guerrero DeLuca. I think education on vaccinations is essential and critical to our parents. On one hand, we often hear ourselves saying, listen to experts. Well, the American Pediatrics are for mandatory vaccinations. These are trained doctors and nurses who have done countless studies and have shown that there's no adverse reactions to vaccinations, and have shown the studies have proven that they are life prolonging services. So, and we shouldn't wait. We need to have a proactive approach. to vaccinations. We shouldn't wait until the whooping cough is in our communities. We shouldn't wait until the news shows that 20 children have had an outbreak of measles or rubella or any of these other diseases that are preventable. So yes, I am for mandatory vaccinations. I think that this is something, as a parent, my child goes to school with other children, and I'd like to know they're safe.
Thank you. Mr. Dewilde?
Still Jim Dewilde. How many of you'd like to see a repeat of the Black Plague? History up close and personal. We've managed to stamp out polio, a devastating disease, measles, mumps, roseola. That's science. I like science. I think science has taken us to a good place. So if we're going to interact with other people in public institutions, then by all means, I believe mandatory vaccinations are in order.
Mr. Howell, next question to you, sir. Do you know, if you know, what the state minimum wage is, and do you take any position whether it should be raised, lowered, or stays the same?
Even though it takes a long time to go around this table, I'm still Gary Howell, and I'm still a Republican.
I think everybody knows everybody now, but it's always good to introduce yourself.
Very good. Appreciate that. Anyway, no, I do not advocate any increase in the minimum wage. The minimum wage, by definition, deprives young people of jobs. You're pricing certain, no matter what your minimum wage level is, you're pricing a certain number of young people out of jobs. The market will raise wages as the economy is justified. That's my thought, and that's my position. I would not vote to raise it.
Ian Kempf, Emily City area. I would not vote to raise the minimum wage either. This past week, I had a gentleman call me. He was looking for three landscapers for $32 an hour. I had another gentleman call me, and he runs a golf course, and he was looking for someone to be a lawn man at his golf course. I did not have anybody to fill those positions, and quite frankly, that has not happened in a long time. If anybody wants them, by the way, I can give you the information. But I don't think that raising the minimum wage does anything but cuts down on the youth jobs and those jobs that are really supposed to be entry-level jobs. Thank you.
Allan Landosky. I had a 3-year stint in Europe working for General Motors, and I walked into a McDonald's one day. I was running late for work, and the guy behind the counter was 36 years old. And the first thing that dawned on me was, who would want to make a career path out of waiting a counter at McDonald's? For that reason, I don't think we've got to have an entry-level point for all of our new employees when they get out of high school. The minimum wage will kill that, or at least an increase in the minimum wage. So we have to consider what it's going to do to general society, not just to those people who want to make a career out of doing an incredibly menial job. Thank you.
No, I don't support Jan Peabody. Sorry. I don't support keep raising the minimum wage. I think it hurts small businesses. I personally would rather get my fries or milkshake from a person than a kiosk. So I don't support raising the minimum wage.
Sharna Cramer Smith. I also disagree with increasing the minimum wage. Minimum wage shouldn't be a lifestyle. I think it was meant for students for maybe a supplemental income, but not as a lifestyle. I agree that it hurts small businesses and loses jobs. Thank you.
Chris Tuski, Hadley Township, and I do not agree with raising the minimum wage. That is certainly a free market number that should be allowed to float as supply and demand of the workforce does increase. If there's a particular company that is having trouble finding employees, good employees, they'll pay $1 or $2 or $3 more an hour to retain those good employees. So it has to be allowed to float, and it has to be a free market decision.
Russ Adams with tired legs from running back and forth. Thank you. I don't agree with raising the minimum wage. I believe the question also was asked, do you know what it is? It's under $9 an hour in that area. So no, I don't know what the specific number is. The experiment in Seattle, out in Washington, that said a living wage job should be paid for all of those, raising it up to $15 an hour, has been catastrophic. We also understand that entry wage jobs as police officers in and about our county, EMS providers that are educated, aren't making $15 an hour. Minimum wage is that. It's a starting wage for someone. We need to focus on increasing education, increasing skill sets so that people can grow from a minimum wage job into something else. In addition to that, I'd also like to talk about repealing the Prevailing Wage Act that says anyone on a work site receiving funds from a state fund has a prevailing wage paid, which isn't any, he's waving that thing at me.
Thank you.
Prevailing wage.
Mr. Courser?
Well, I think we beat that to death, but I certainly am not in favor of raising the minimum wage. If you're truly about the free markets, I believe the Republicans actually raised the minimum wage this last time. I was vehemently opposed to it when it happened. The idea is if you're truly about the free markets, you don't have a minimum wage. You allow the markets to set the wage. That's the way that it's supposed to happen, allowing people to contract for themselves what wage makes sense and allows the flexibility in the marketplace. So myself, I'm certainly not an advocate for raising the minimum wage. When you go to prevailing wage, certainly we need to end the prevailing wage situation in the state as well and stop overpaying for contracts for the state for organized labor. Thank you.
Jake Davison, I'm totally opposed to increasing the minimum wage. I'd like to get rid of it entirely, but if I told you that was politically possible, I would be lying. Yes, our conservative, so-called conservative majorities in the state Senate and state House passed a increase in the minimum wage. It's not enough just to send someone to Lansing to vote against it. You got to have someone who can build coalitions and fight and lead to stop these things from happening. And I think I have the experience to do that.
The minimum wage bill was passed, okay? So by 2018, it will be raised to $9.25. It has been done in increments. So we went from $7.40, and each year, all the way up to 2018, it will slowly progress up to $9.25. We want people off state aid. Everybody says it. I hear it all the time, Facebook, wherever, newspapers. We need people off state aid. We need people off federal aid. Well, then give them a wage they can live on. Don't make these, and we keep saying that our youth are our minimum wage. Wake up, people, it's not. Again, I'm a stats person. 80% of the people that are making minimum wage are over the age of 21. 70% of those people are women, single head of household with one or more dependents. So again, we want a middle class. Everybody wants it. Well, we all want the American dream. Making $9.25 is fair.
I don't know. I've been through McDonald's, Burger King, Arby's. Those aren't high school students I'm looking at in there. Those are adults. These are people, single moms, sometimes single dads, trying to raise families, and they're trying to do it at $7.50 an hour. There's not a one of us in here who could dream of doing that. I think we need to raise the minimum wage right now to between $11 and $12 an hour by the middle of next year, and by 2020 it should be up to $15 an hour. People need a living wage. With 8% unemployment in this county, that's who's working in fast food joints. Adults.
I'm Rick Guerrero from Emily City. I don't agree with raising the minimum wage. My opinion, you hear opinions like the idea that working these 40 hours at a $7, $8 an hour job, it's not possible to raise a family. What I'd like to see, and there's a quote from like Bernie Sanders saying, anyone working 40 hours a week should not have to live in poverty. Well, if you take away those taxes that are taxing upwards of 30 to 40%, including 40 to 50% on overtime wages, you'd be able to be a lot more effective with the money you earn.
It's Mr. Kempf. Mr. Kempf, the next question is some of the most vulnerable people in Lapeer County and the state of Michigan are senior citizens. What issues do you see facing seniors, and if elected to the state legislature, what would you do to try to assist seniors?
Thank you, Ian Kempf, and gosh, quite easy, quite frankly, this is kind of a softball one for me. I've been working with seniors in Lapeer County for the past 15 years, and I have served on the VAAA board. I have worked on passing millages for our seniors. We have a wonderful senior program in Lapeer County. We have a great representative, Bonnie, right over there. And we have home chore programs, we have home meal programs. Our philosophy as a Board of Commissioners in Lapeer County is we want to keep the seniors in their homes. Now, in saying that, on a state level, VAAAs, or the AAAs, Valley Area Agency on Aging, and they're a region, there's a lot of them around the state. They are purely a pass-through organization. So they get the state and federal money, they take a portion off the top for administration, and then they pass it on to the counties. We need to get rid of those pass-through organizations in our state. Thank you.
Allan Landosky, a Republican. My children tell me I'm very close to needing those services. I primarily would carry on with what Lapeer County is doing now, but I have to address the issue in that this would be new to me, and I'm still hard in the working world, and I want to make sure that whatever we do is efficient for them, and they get to stay in their homes. Homes and mobility are the two most important things that I understand, at least with my parents and the senior members that I know, and that's what I would advocate.
Well, I'm proud to say that when I did work at the health department, I worked with a senior program, and I was a nurse that went and did home visits. And yes, that's the ultimate goal, to keep our seniors in their home, and what our county has done is amazing with our senior programs. Paul Walker's doing a wonderful job there. And also, we need to be very proud of our Suncrest, our nursing facility. It's one of the best in the state. So I just think we need to keep enhancing what we've done for our seniors and make sure they can stay in their homes and they get the care that they need and they get the transportation to attend events they want to go to.
Sharna Cramer Smith. The Michigan Endowment Fund was created in 2013, and that was to benefit the senior citizens, to maintain programs, to help maintain their healthy lifestyle, to help retain independence and a choice for seniors. 1 in 4 Michigan residents will be 60 or older by 2030. I'll be 62. Oh. We have to work together to prepare for our growing older population. Thank you.
I would certainly support doing as much as we can for our senior citizens, and we are at just the cusp of the wave of seniors getting into their older years, that we do need to drive efficiencies into that organization, so that way that money that we are dedicating to that is being spent as wise as possible to support them back in their homes, and as much as we can into activities that can keep them active.
Russ Adams, Lapeer. Supporting our senior citizens is a vital part of our community. I'm lucky enough to have both of my parents still alive, and they have needed quite a bit of medical assistance within the last 2 years. I've helped to coordinate their transportation where they live. It isn't as prevalent as we have right here in Lapeer County. I've gone out and taken them to the hospital. I've worked with senior citizens personally, directly to me. In addition to that, I think we need to understand that there have been 12 pieces of legislation either created or amended to protect the rights of citizens, senior citizens. We have to look at exploitation. We have to look at abuse and neglect if they're not able to stay in their homes, if they're in adult care homes, if they're in foster care homes that are actually for adults and aged, or if they're in nursing centers. We have to make sure that those are inspected, that they're maintained, that their dignity is maintained, that they're met and cared for in a compassionate way if they're not able to stay in their homes anymore. Those are things that need to be.
Thank you. Mr. Courser?
Well, in my practice, I deal with seniors and elder care and the difficulties that families have, and I've seen a lot of abuse. So wherever we can protect them, obviously, in those situations, it's really important to make sure that that happens in the later stages of life. And some really tragic stories that you see, and also you see families in some awesome ways coming around their loved ones and being able to keep them out of nursing homes. And so I think you need to empower the families and make sure that the families are able to take the steps to be able to maintain those family relationships rather than having those folks put into senior facilities whenever possible. But I think the big thing really, I just go back to the fiscal side, is that the Republican Party, and I'm a member of the Republican Party, but it is disappointing to me when they lead the way on more taxes. And I think it was an offense when you put the pension tax on our seniors. I think it was absolutely ridiculous, and I think it was a terrible move. And so I think in moving in that direction, you need to take away not only the pension tax, but then also look at eliminating the income tax as well. Thank you.
Jake Davison, Republican. My first thought is that I would do everything in my power to repeal or roll back as much as possible the senior pension tax. Once again, we have a so-called conservative governor and a so-called conservative state Senate majority and state House majority. All the Republicans call themselves conservatives, but here we go. We have a brand new tax on seniors' pensions. So it's not enough just to say you're a conservative. You have to prove it, and you have to have, I think, experience in getting things done on the issues, not just talking about them, and that's what I think I bring to this campaign.
Margaret, Guerrero, DeLuca. I've served on the Emily City Senior Citizen Board, and I too promoted the passing of our senior millage, our recent senior millage. We need to ensure we are providing quality services, and we need to do this by cutting the bureaucratic red tape. And I'll give you an example. The state is making it nearly impossible for counties to share services. We're supposed to be all sharing services and trying to do better with less. However, the St. Clair bus for seniors passes through Emily City on its way to Meadowbrook Hall in Rochester. Travels up I-69, it goes right by Emily City. It used to be able to stop into the Emily City Senior Center, and those who wanted to get on the bus could go and enjoy the day at Meadowbrook Hall. Because we're two different counties and the budgets are separate and so on, they couldn't do that anymore. It's ridiculous. If the bus is driving by your community and there's 5 people on...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first and foremost, I think we really do have to roll back taxes for senior citizens. They paid enough. Most seniors in this county are on pretty fixed, pretty limited incomes, and to tax them to death, it's just not fair. They've worked all their lives. It's time to give them a break. The other thing that I would want to keep a closer eye on is nursing homes for those who have to be confined. We need, I think, better regulations and better inspections in our nursing homes, more frequent and accurate inspections in our nursing homes. Seniors have earned it. I keep telling my daughter, I've earned it. So, I report you for senior abuse. So that's pretty much how I feel.
Rick Guerrero, I too agree with it's ridiculous to tax seniors' pensions, as well as the idea that the working class generation is still being overtaxed to a point that our nonprofits in our area are dying. We are not able to even get members. We can raise plenty of money. We just can't get the membership involvement that it takes to keep these nonprofits going. We have lots of food banks that are all throughout the county helping each other out. I'd like to see these things be expanded on and have the ability of the younger generation to not be working these 50, 60-hour work weeks to make ends meet by being overtaxed and not being able to volunteer their services into things like the senior help. So again, eliminate some of these income taxes, especially the ones on seniors.
Thank you.
Gary Howell. The first and most important thing we do for seniors is to quit taking their money away from them. I'm a conservative Republican. However, I condemn the Republican Party. They betrayed you seniors in this room. A few years ago, they took your pension exemption and eliminated it, and they did it in an arbitrary and capricious way. They said if you were born before 1945, you got a huge exemption. If you're born between 52 and 45, you get $40,000 for a couple. If you're since 1952, you're screwed. That's the message to seniors that the Republicans sent, and it should never have been done, and I'm going to work to repeal it. Another thing they did they shouldn't have done is they reduced the homestead tax credit. That was the credit that helped seniors that had low incomes in their overly high property tax bills. It hadn't been raised from $1,200 since the 1970s, and they went ahead and cut it 3 or 4 years ago. So it's even less now. It should have been raised, not cut. We are being unfair to our seniors. We're taking their money away, and the Republicans should be ashamed.
Thank you. Mr. Landosky, next question to you. It indicates that this question says that this person views that resources for our school students have decreased annually, and most of this individuals and the teacher's colleagues feel demoralized and frankly helpless to accomplish much. What will you do to address the issues on school funding and teacher morale?
This is a very, Al Landosky, Republican. This is a very interesting question because with my 3 children, I paid tuition at Michigan State to graduate a daughter as a teacher. She started out in the industry, and she only did it for a couple of years, then became a full-time mother. But one of the things I learned was teacher morale and the way the schools are incredibly poor. My concern here is that the local control of the school systems is slipping away with federal money and to some extent some state money. And I actually would advocate that school system control remain local. And I also believe that school system funding should be mostly local, not state, not federal. They can set specifications, but if you want control, you have to pay for it. And local control, especially in these great, I call them,
Thank you.
I should keep him in court.
Johnny, you got a job, maybe. Jan Peabody, would you repeat the question, please?
Sure. The question basically is this individual who obviously is saying that there hasn't been an increase in funding, that the funding for the schools has been going down. He sees a lot of demoralization regarding the teachers and how we can address to ensure proper funding for our schools.
Well, first of all, Republicans have put more money into education than Democrats over the last 20 years. Since Governor Snyder's been elected, he has increased per pupil funding every budget. So as far as school funding, I would like to see, my belief is a lot of people don't vote for school board candidates, and those are the people that hire the superintendents of the school board. So we have a low turnout. I believe we need to elect school board members that will have conservative views and work with the superintendent and manage the money that they're getting from our county and from our, our state. So we need to manage this money locally, and we need to manage the money that we get from the state through our property taxes. So as far as morale,
Thank you.
Sorry. Sharna Cramer Smith. Under Governor Snyder, the school funding has increased every year. I don't know why there's that perception that it's decreased. Federal money to Michigan schools is dropping, so that's an issue. Per pupil funding should be the same in all schools, whether you're in Bloomfield Hills, whether you're in North Branch. It should be the same, and I feel like I could help in possibly narrowing that gap. As far as teacher morale, Common Core isn't really working. We need to find something and have it state regulated and not federally regulated. Thank you.
This is Chris Tuski of Hadley Township, and in Lapeer County, we have an unfortunate circumstances where our actually student population is going down. So the budget then, available funds that we actually have to spend on the children is going down. And it's difficult if you think about it because you have, you know, classroom sizes are actually going down, but you still have to hire the same amount of teachers basically to be able to support that. So it puts a difficult situation into our school district right now because we don't have young families moving into Lapeer County. As far as the humorization of the teachers go, I think that we really, from a parent standpoint, we really do need to get involved with the schools, where the teachers have to be, you know, the parents have to be directly involved with the teachers and supporting the teachers and being a collaborative effort between the two to be able to educate our students as much as possible.
From a legislative perspective, Russ Adams, Lapeer, we need to stop vilifying teachers. These are the people that are in our classrooms every day caring for our caring for our children. I've got 3 elementary age children. I have 3 older children, all in the Lapeer schools here. I'm in the building. I'm talking to the teacher. I'm talking to the principal. My wife's in there. We need to stop vilifying them. That's the first thing we're going to do to increase morale. To standardize funding, we have to, as one of my colleagues up here said, standardize the per pupil ratio across our country. And we have to look a little bit at this school of choice. I'm certainly into individual rights and taking our children to a district that best meets their needs, but we're stripping our local communities of their identities if we're rushing our children over the border into a larger community, into a larger school. It's our local communities and the heart of those that give us our identities. So we need to shore up those buildings, making sure that the funding remains in the district.
Thank you.
The solution is freedom. It's allowing families to pick for themselves. You know, you want good educations, you have to allow the parents to be empowered to be able to take the money and to allow the money to follow the child. The situation we have now is really we have the biggest budget, I think the biggest education budget that we've had in history, passed by Republicans, and yet we have, if you look at it, our education system is fallen. You know, we're not educating to a level that really competes on the world stage. So we have to allow families to make the choice, whether that be for the public schools. We have to allow for people to do homeschooling, whether it be parochial schooling or private schooling. We need to really allow some flexibility for families to determine. I think the money should just follow the child. As you do that, most of the issues that we're dealing with will get corrected. I'm absolutely vehemently against Common Core. This situation is really just a boondoggle to really dumb down our children.
Thank you.
I was the president of a charter school, and I'm a big believer in school choice. So we have great public schools here in Lapeer, so you're not going to see a flood of charter schools coming in to compete because we have good schools. But if they start to slip, that's what competition is for. I believe it's schools of choice. If you want to send your kid to the adjoining district, why not? One thing that I've never understood is why the Teacher of the Year, the person who wins the Michigan Teacher of the Year award, is not allowed to receive a single penny more a year in compensation for being the very best, as opposed to the very worst teacher. It's all based strictly on seniority and having a degree that may or may not reflect success in the classroom or not. No other industry in the world works like that. I don't think there's a perfect system to reward teacher performance, but not having one at all doesn't make any sense to me.
Public schools are a cornerstone in every community. As a substitute teacher, I've taught in every school district in Lapeer County, from elementary up to high school. And it's a shame what's happened to our teachers and our schools. Teachers have become the scapegoat for all of our state's woes. And it's wrong. We've heard that the schools have not reduced funding,
Please, I urge you, go to your local school boards and ask to see their budgets over the last 5 years and see for yourself whether funding has increased. That's false. Numbers have been moved, fudged, to say that, oh, we're receiving more funding. That's false. Look at the numbers yourself. Call your superintendent. Go look. Excuse me, I'm so passionate about this. These budget cuts have caused cutthroat tactics in our local schools. Look at them. When in our time did schools have to put up billboards to try and get students into their districts? We're marketing.
Thank you.
That's a short amount of time.
Well, first and foremost, I think Common Core has been a disaster, and I think that's one of the things that's really beaten up our teachers. I don't know, when I was a kid, teachers used to be able to teach. They can't anymore. They're beholden to the federal government to do X, Y, Z. They spend 3 months out of the year teaching to the test, and youngsters don't learn what they're supposed to be learning in school anymore. When I graduated from high school, I was ready for college. Having taught college, youngsters coming into college today just aren't ready because they're not getting what they need in high schools, and a lot of that has to do with federal meddling. Schools should be handled at a local level. Curriculum should be handled at a local level.
Well, I agree with the idea that schools should be handled at a local level. Common Core and standardized testing have polarized our educational system, as well as things like required college, continuing college for these teachers that oftentimes are happy in a situation where they teach 5th graders. They're happy doing that. And it's ridiculous to require them to year after year after year after year to continue on these colleges and get double masters and PhDs and to teach 5th graders. They could be perfectly good at what they do and love what they do. Again, there's certain levels of government interference that will drive these morales down to nothing. Another thing is oversized classrooms. You know, when we were young, 20 kids was a big classroom.
Thank you.
As a conservative Republican school board member, I'd like to address this question. First, it's untrue there has not been a budget cut. In vocational education, our funds have gone down like this. It's because we rely on property taxes, and property tax revenue has gone down. How have we responded? We have cut our budgets. We have had fewer positions. Our teachers had to absorb a 1.5% pay decrease one year. They haven't had a percentage increase in several years. We've given them a stipend. That's just a fact of life. I know that's hard on their morale, but we had to do it, and we did the right thing. Onto morale, there's a lot of things wrong, and one of them was just talked about. The state of Michigan, and nobody else, is making our teachers go back to school and take more credits and more credits and more credits to keep their license. This is nonsense. In a vocational setting, I've got a perfectly good building trades instructor doing a heck of a good job. He's forced to spend several $1,000s to go back and get another 15 credits to keep his teacher's license. Doesn't make him 1 iota better building trades instructor, but the state is making him do it.
Well, I think the original question was about morale. I do believe that schools should be local until a school district proves that they are not responsible enough to handle that, i.e. Detroit Public Schools. But when it comes to morale, I think if you want to improve the morale of the schools, empower the people that are at the school. Empower the teachers to do their job. Empower the teachers to discipline the students. Empower the principals and the superintendents to weed out the teachers that are not doing their job. If you want better morale, empower those folks.
What we're going to try to do is I'm going to try to have the other 3 people give an answer, so there'll be like 3 more questions, and we're going to have closing. So again, it's about 10 after 9, so we're moving along rather quickly, but to be fair, we want to make sure that these 3 individuals get the first question to them. So to you, Ms. Peabody, the next question is, the state legislature passes many what they call unfunded mandates that the local units of government have to carry out without any funds from the state level. What's your feeling on that if you get elected to the state legislature?
Well, I've already mentioned that several times this evening. Again, I go back to my tenure at the health department. The health officer would come to us and say, we have another unfunded mandate. And what that means is you have to take an employee, you have to implement the program and take an employee from another area. So it just causes a lot of hardship on a public entity like the health department or a small business. We need to decrease unfunded mandates and eliminate regulations.
Sharna Cramer Smith. I think this is something that I would like to have a chance to research and get feedback from other people. I feel that I would need more information to give you a sound answer. So I'm going to pass the mic.
Chris Tuski, Hadley Township. Unfunded mandates like that, it's kind of an interesting topic when you think about it. If they're mandating something to a state level that actually they're paying the bill already. So it's kind of interesting. It's like an increase in bureaucracy. So it's at this point, I really wouldn't be in favor of those things. But again, it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. And perhaps maybe if you eliminate some level of bureaucracy to do something else, that might make sense also at this point. Thank you.
Unfunded mandates rear their heads in several different ways. I already mentioned the Narcan law that was passed a year ago. It goes into effect the middle of this month. They mandated that our police officers carry it, that all medical first responders carry it, and all basics carry it. Those are licensed vehicles with no funding associated to that. So the agencies now have to come up with a way to buy that equipment and train on that equipment. The legislature said, do it. That's an example of an unfunded mandate. I believe in local control. I believe in local identities. Governor Snyder, a few years back, passed his best practices agenda, and he decided that you're not going to get your revenue sharing dollars unless you do things the way he thinks things should be done. But he doesn't live in Lapeer County, and he doesn't know what our communities look like, and he doesn't know what's right for our people. So unfunded mandates are a major problem.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Unfunded mandates, where the legislature passes laws that require local governmental entities to do certain things that they don't get any money for.
I worked on a package of bills right at the beginning of my time in the House to stop unfunded mandates. Obviously, it's done all the time. I'm certainly against it where you have the legislature putting forward bills that create the situation where the local communities, villages, townships, cities, and also the counties are forced to pick up the load of the responsibility of the actions of the legislature. So I certainly am opposed to any sort of unfunded mandates.
Jake Davison, Republican. Yeah, I'm against unfunded mandates, and that's another thing that we need to pass some legislation about. But if you elect someone who spends the first term trying to find out where the bathrooms are at, that's lost time and lost opportunity. I'm ready to get things done for the first day I get to Lansing.
Unfunded mandates are wrong, and they need to be removed. As a former mayor and city commissioner of Emily City, I witnessed firsthand our governor giving us those exact rules that Russell had mentioned. They cut our revenue sharing by 30%. I can give you the numbers for Emily City. We used to receive $100,000. Not a lot, but that made an impact in our budget. 30% was taken completely off the top, so we went down to $70,000. Then we were told that if we didn't comply with A, B, and C, the rest of our revenue sharing would be removed. Even if we just missed one step, our revenue sharing was going to be taken altogether. This is wrong. We were told that for transparency purposes, which is a good thing, we needed to put our budget online, and we needed to go through all these steps to make sure. Well, in research, there were several organizations within the administration that didn't follow that same protocol, that missed deadlines. Yet we were being told. Thank you.
Unfunded mandates sound a little bit to me like if I erected a fence on our property line, yours and mine, And I said, by the way, you're paying for it. It's kind of what it sounds like to me. I don't know that much about them, and I would like an opportunity to look into them a little bit further. But it seems to me that any organization that says you have to do this or you have to do that, oh, and by the way, you got to pay for it too, that doesn't sound like America to me.
Rick Guerrero. I also, too, am opposed to unfunded mandates. My thinking, though, is as well, you know, if there is nothing we can do about blocking these unfunded mandates, it's kind of that analogy of a parent saying, well, you live in my home. You're going to be home by 9 o'clock at night. You know, if these things are happening and you're accepting our funds from a state level, you're going to comply. That's reasonable. Now, if we can cut those out and not fund things that are specific to impeding on a local government's ability to survive as a free and separate entity without a state government saying you're going to do this, so be it.
Gary Howell. Unfunded mandates sound like a bureaucratic term, but they have real impacts on all of us. Serving on the Lapeer County Road Commission, I've seen some doozies. Example, we have a requirement as to long-eared bats, northern long-eared bats. We cannot cut trees along your roadways except between October and March because of a mandate there might be nesting long-eared bats. Turns out the only known northern long-eared bats in Michigan they found are in the Keweenaw Peninsula, and they live in old copper mines. But we can't cut trees in Lapeer County because of this nonsense, except for their designated months. There's 12 Indian tribes in Michigan, none of them here. But the state says when we do anything, any minor bridge project, or anything else, we got to send a notice to those Indian tribes in case they have an interest in what we're doing. More wasted money, more wasted nonsense. Historical preservation requirements. Understand, we don't knock down houses, we build roads. We have to report every house over 50 years old.
Well, Gary Roy threatened to break my arm if I go to Lansing and don't do something about the unfunded mandates. But the truth of the matter is unfunded mandates are already illegal. That's not the problem. The problem is the state has a million ways to get around them. One of the things they love to do is they love to say, well, you know what, this isn't an unfunded mandate because you have the ability to charge for it as a county or as a township. Or they say, if you don't do it, we will. And we don't want the state to come in and take over some of our departments. So it's not just as simple as saying we're going to make unfunded mandates illegal, because they already are. It's a matter of saying to the state, we will not allow you to give us these mandates anymore. That's what we need to do. Thank you.
Allan Landosky. The process of unfunded mandates is actually broken. And what we actually have to do is fix that. If I was elected, I would use every power, every piece of electronic communication I've got to in-house lobby everybody who wants to pass an unfunded mandate attached to a bill. And then if I couldn't get anything done by doing that, I'd put it in the newspapers, and I'd definitely let the constituents of Lapeer County know about it. But until that feature is changed in generating laws, I'm sorry, as constituents, we probably got to eat it.
Thank you. Next question to you, Ms. Smith. If you get elected to the State House, how will you know the will of the people here in Lapeer County? Specifically, how often would you attend county, city, commission, school board meetings, things of that nature with some specific... No, it's you, Ms. Smith. I thought Ms. Peabody... No, you're next.
But she had to go last.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off, Ms. Peabody? No, she was the first one. I keep track. You're next.
I know.
That's why they're paying you the big bucks to be here. Ms. Smith, did you get the question? No, it's your first.
Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I apologize.
All of us indicate that you're going to try to reflect the will of the people in Lapeer County. What plan with some specificity would you try to get that will? Would you attend commission meetings, city meetings, school board meetings? How would you know the will of the people if you're elected to the state legislature?
I think spending time right here in your own county is so important. Listening to you, going to commission meetings, understanding what's going on in your county is important. Talking with news, talking with teachers, farmers, manufacturers, CEOs, you all have a voice, and that's what I would do, is to represent you. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that you have to go to these meetings. Michigan townships, and we're all leaders together. Thank you.
Chris Tuski, Hadley Township. I would actually set up a rotating schedule, something that the townships, the commissions, and everybody would understand when I would actually be available to them, that I would be coming to their meetings. So if there's any issues or anything they want to bring up to me, they know it's coming on the calendar. And of course, I've been to quite a few of the township board meetings already, just in this campaign alone, and I would continue that on a rotating schedule moving forward.
Making myself available to the constituents within Lapeer County would be vital. Maintaining that open communication. You're paying my salary. You're paying my phone bill. My phone's usually in my pocket. I'm not that old, but it's there. You can have my phone number. You can text me. You can email me. On top of that, I would have a local office. I think it's important to have a local presence and a primary location to be. So I would develop a local office, and as my colleague Mr. Tuski stated, there would be a rotating schedule. I think it's vital to understand what's going on at the south edge of our community, what's going on at the north edge of our community. I can't just stay in one place, because each of those communities have a particular identity, and they have a particular need within their communities. It's vital to be in touch with that.
I think you have to do it all the ways that you can. One is electronic and making sure that people know what your votes are. I publish my votes online. I have a vote journal that explains how I voted and why I voted, and amassed obviously the most conservative voting record in the House and one of the more conservative in a generation. And people need to know that, so you need to make that available to folks. And then you need to do it by obviously public meetings. You need to make yourself available one-to-one. Did plenty of one-to-one meetings with constituents and obviously with groups when they went to Lansing and also here in Lapeer. So it's difficult to do all the tasks. It's very difficult to be able to provide the representation you need to do in Lansing and put in the time to know the legislation, to do a great job for folks on that end, and then to also come back and make yourself available on this end. So obviously managing those, it becomes at times difficult to do. Thank you.
Jake Davison, Mayfield Township. It's not that difficult if you've done it before. I was a constituent affairs person for Representative Gilbert and State Senator Gilbert. I've held personally office hours all around the county, in Columbiaville, Almont. We used to be able to. I used to do 6 of them in a day. Occasionally, I would go 5 miles an hour over the speed limit in order to get 6 of them into a day, but just 5. But that's what the job is. You work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in the legislature, then you rush back home and you go to everything that you can do. That's just part of the job, and I've done it before. I've done everything that a state representative does, except actually push the green and red buttons to vote. And so I think I'm the most qualified person for the job.
Thank you. Margaret, Guerrero, DeLuca. I think Mr. Tuski can read minds, because that was my answer with regards to the rotating schedule. We all know that legislators have an exorbitant amount of time on their hands. And when you're not in Lansing, you should be out meeting the people. But the most important thing is meeting all of your constituents. We've seen representatives who ignore, delete constituents that don't agree with them, have a difference of opinion. That's not how you represent your constituents. You need to be willing and sit down and say, hey, we might not be on the same team, but I'm willing to listen to you because your input and opinion is valuable. And when you can do that, and you can listen and really listen, and then try and take back that information that you've just gained and try and create a common sense decision that's going to best represent your citizens, that's key. So again, I would have a rotating schedule. We're meeting with elected officials and citizens. Thank you.
Well, I don't think whichever one of us ends up getting elected is going to Lansing just to represent Republicans. We're going to represent everybody. And that means spending as much time in the community as possible, each and every community. I love town hall meetings. I think they're great. They're raw, but I think you get a lot of honest feedback in situations like that. And certainly my email would be available, my phone would be available, and I would spend no more time in Lansing than I absolutely had to. I like it here. So.
Rick Guerrero. Again, I kind of go by the principle that God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. I really liked and respected the fact that you'd go to a meeting and see Kevin Daly there, and not just there to be in the front and talking, but listening. And I think that's ultimately important, to be able to do that, as well as what Justin Amash does, is explain his votes in detail and take on public comment, regardless if it's positive feedback or negative feedback. It's important to be the representative you were elected to be.
Gary Howell. For the last 40 years, I've done that very thing. My legal practice has been representing the townships, cities, and villages in Lapeer County. I can find every single village hall in the county in my sleep because I've been to thousands of meetings over the years. I would continue to attend meetings as time permits. More importantly, I would hold town hall meetings, and I would provide an office at my own expense in Lapeer for any constituent that wants to meet with me. I know in the past there's some meetings in restaurants. I find that awkward for the constituent. If they have a personal problem, they shouldn't have to sit in a restaurant booth to talk to me. They could come to an office, have the privacy of a discussion with their representative, and hear what my thoughts are, and I would hear what their problems are. And I would do that religiously. I am totally retired. My all efforts would be going to being a good representative for Lapeer County.
Well, I also would set up a private office. I think that's very important. But I also think that past performance is probably indicative of future results. I've been elected 7 times from my district. I ran for that office because there was an outcry of the person who had that seat before was not responsive or representative to the people at that given time. I believe that I have a proven track record of talking to the constituency out there, setting up meetings, going to meetings. I just believe the proof's in the pudding, quite frankly.
Allan Landosky. When you work in the throes of a big company, everything is data driven. So in God we trust, all others have to bring data. And I approach this and say anything that I do in the State House, I definitely have to report that back to the constituents here of Lapeer County. I would also have an office. I'd have a rotating visitation schedule, and I would hold it firm and fixed. But I would definitely improve my electronic communication to any constituent so that you could get a hold of me 7/24. Actually, I'd make up a website and make sure that I could handle any of the issues that you would contact me about.
I believe it's imperative for our state representative to communicate with our county commissioners, our elected officials at the township level, the city level. I too would hold office hours and have an office here. I also believe it's imperative that we support our passions in this county as far as our Pregnancy Resource Center, our family literacy, our domestic abuse. We need to go beyond our townships and villages and support those that attend Tea Party meetings and any other civic meetings that are out there. I would do my best to get there and provide excellent constituent relations, and you would get timely return phone calls.
Thank you.
Thank you.
last question, we're going to have to start with Mr. Tuski. Once everybody's completed, they're going to have closing statements made. Mr. Tuski, obviously one of the main issues here is repairing the roads. Many people have said that there's money in the state budget. Where would you get the money from specifically? What would you cut? Where would you look to fund state road repairs?
Well, as like I said in my opening statement, you have the top 5 departments that actually control 86%. I would squeeze it out of those top 5. There's got to be efficiencies in that. If you have a $53 billion budget, which company in this state would actually not be able to find that kind of money or that kind of savings? You never hear of cost-saving programs within the state. You always hear about those things on the private sector with the large companies. The state is actually the 4th largest entity by cost, by revenue within the state, and it's like you never hear of these programs. So there's money there, especially in the top 5, that you would be able to find. Give me a week with these guys, and I bet you would find that money within that. You just have to have enough guts to really force the issue with them. Thank you.
I don't know the ins and outs of the state budget right now, but I know there's excess. I know in my budget at home, there are things that I can't change. I don't get to tell Edison I'm going to give them 20% this year because I'm cutting 20% off of my bill. And when I call my mortgage company up and try and tell them that, they're going to tell me the same thing. There are things that are fixed and there are things that are frivolous. We're going to look for the frivolous things. We're going to cut them out. We're going to shore up funding for school. We're going to shore up funding for public safety. We're going to look at these things, and we're going to find better ways to mandate and stabilize the funding for our roads. So I can't tell you what that budget looks like today, but I know I'm going to reach my hand across the aisle, whether it's a blue seat or a red seat. I'm going to shake their hand, and I'm going to get something done. That's what I want to go into Lansing to do.
Well, I appreciate that. This whole idea of raising the gas tax or to try and fund the roads, I hope you all understand that's a lie. That money is not going to the roads. It's going to fill a Medicaid hole that they have because they put 600,000 more people on welfare 3 years ago. That was the Republicans that did that. So they actually cut this last budget, they actually cut road funding. So the whole idea is to continue to force you to say, hey, we need this tax, we're not going to fix the roads. We have the biggest budget in state history. It's a behemoth. It's a beast. They can fix the roads. They have enough money. It's there. You want to deal with it? Cut welfare, cut Medicaid, cut the Medicaid expansion that just happened. Deal with those issues. Obviously cut corporate welfare, the MEDC, which is just, I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of money that we're giving to corporations. So just those alone will more than fund the road problems that we have. And then obviously the prevailing wage issue, which needs to be ended as well.
Thank you.
Jake Davison. One of the reasons why our roads aren't as nice as other states is because we're a donor state. Now, that's a federal issue that's out of the control of the state legislature, but we need to get more of our gas tax money back from Washington, D.C. There's lots of waste and abuse in state government that could be redirected towards the roads. But frankly, if you want your roads to be as smooth and nice as, say, Ohio or Indiana or Iowa or Minnesota, you have to increase the gas tax, and I'm against increasing the gas tax. We have a lower gas tax in other states, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think we should jack up taxes on all working families across the state before we've tried everything else, and I wouldn't vote for a gas tax increase anyway.
Over the last 2 years, I've spent numerous hours investigating our road funding. Our current formula for giving funding is flawed. The state roads make up 8%, yet receive 41% of our state funding. County roads make up 75% of our roads, yet receive 39%. Cities and villages make up 17% and receive 23% of funding. When it comes to federal funds, it's even worse. When we receive federal funds, MDOT receives 75% of the federal funds. The other 25% has to be then divvied out between counties, cities, villages. So the formula is wrong of how we are funding our roads. We need to make sure that we are providing more funding to our local counties and municipalities because we are the ones that are maintaining our roads. So it's not that the money is not there, it's just how it's being divvied up.
Thank you.
Well, again, I think we have to look at the state budget, and again, not being familiar with the state budget, I don't have any real answers. I know that we have to be more practical about the road projects that we're doing. Anybody think we needed a roundabout at Lake Nipissing Road and Davison? I think a traffic light would have sufficed, but yet they spent scads of money more to put that ridiculous thing in. Just my opinion. But I think we have to look at and be able to prioritize. We have X number of dollars, and it only goes so far. We have to prioritize where we're going to spend that money, and we have to do it and spend it on the things that matter most to us. And the only way you're going to know that is for whoever goes to Lansing to listen to you so that they know, I know, what it is that matters to you, where you think we should be spending our money.
Rick Guerrero. One of the main things, I have a cousin who was a civil engineer up in Traverse City, and I asked her recently, what are some of the obstacles you see to getting some of the road construction progress things done? And she jokingly said long-eared bats. Said, it's required, again, to reiterate, some of these rules. I said, that's a big problem? She says, no, but it's the most ridiculous one. And that's, again, the problem with this over-regulation. Prevailing wage. It makes it impossible for smaller construction companies to bid against these bigger ones. Going back to the point of competition is much more expensive than it is to comply with the laws in place.
The problem is misallocation of resources. You heard me reiterate a few of the oddities that we have to spend money on in Lapeer County roads. The formula we have leaves Lapeer County with the short end of the stick. We only get 30-some% of that revenue that's paid, and out of that piece that we do get, they take off some overhead for the MDOT, they take off money for trails, they take off money for bicycle paths, they take off money for all kinds of things. Now those things may be hunky-dory, but they're not roads. If they want to pay for those things, they got to pay for them elsewhere, but they're taking our road money and spending it on things that are not road repairs. So all of those should be changed, so we're not wasting our money on bicycle trails and long-eared bats and making us go out and do a survey every time we pave a road about how many houses are more than 50 years old, how many trees are more than 6 inches in diameter. Believe it or not, we have to do that under the regulations. It just goes on and on and on and on.
You know, I don't disagree that we certainly need to redirect some money here. In 2010, 2011, our state budget was $48 billion. In 2014, 2015, it toppled $52 billion. It's going to continue to go up because the revenues are coming in and they will spend it. Why we're not spending that on roads, I don't know. We're spending $24 million on Amtrak, $167 million on bus transit, and then there's the one-time appropriations. A lot of people don't know, but the MIS, that we're paying on our roads, sales tax that we're paying on our roads, and reallocate it and direct that directly to the roads, earmark it for the roads. We have the money, we just have to spend it wisely.
Wow, this is a tough one as a scientist and an engineer because I do want to talk back to the lobbyist on this. But I approach this another way. First, the revenue and the disbursement mechanism we have for roads is totally broken. My plan would be that I would do user taxes up to 90% of all the road funding. That would include gas tax, value-added taxes, and or registration over the value of your vehicle. and then 10% would come out of the general fund only. Now, the only comment I got to make about that is the oxymoron is the reason you got to do this. Our transportation system is moving to hybrid vehicles. Right now, the federal government will give you $7,500 to drive a Volt for a $39,000 car on a road where you buy maybe $150 worth of fuel a year. That's crazy. We're not getting any revenue out of that. And in the future, up to 20-25% of those vehicles are going to be hybrid.
I, too, have some ideas on how we can fund our roads. I'd like to dedicate 1.5% of our gasoline sales tax for roads, which could raise about $190 million. I will support repealing Michigan's prevailing wage. That could raise another $415 million, dedicate 1% of the use tax revenue to roads, redirect oil and gas royalty revenues to roads, which could raise $230 million, and competitively bid certain state services, which could raise another $122 million. I, like the others, don't feel we have a taxing problem in this state. We have a spending problem. And it's essential to fix our roads for small businesses and the farmers in this community and across the state.
Sharna Cramer Smith. We had an election in May, and it was overwhelmingly defeated because I think a poll was taken. If that money would have directly went to roads, it would have passed. I would have voted yes. But it's the same problem as we have now. Half of the money that we pay tax for gas tax doesn't go to the roads. It goes everywhere else. It's skimmed off the top. So I'm actually in favor of increasing the gas tax if it only went to the roads. Where do you get the money from if it is there? I'm sure it is there. I'm not there, so I really have no idea where you would get it from. Nobody wants to sacrifice their line item in the budget, I'm sure. But we all have to sacrifice to get good roads. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to go through closing statements. We're going to go in reverse order of opening statements, starting with Mr. Tuski.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank all my competitors here. It was very interesting. They took about 5 pages worth of notes, so I certainly learned a lot today from everybody here. But, our founding fathers were businessmen, merchants and shippers, and farmers. They came in and were not professional politicians. They came in and served after they had some level of skill. Above all, they put their common good and their own egos aside for the good of the country. You can be confident that I'll do the same. I'll represent you and your families with trust, understanding, sincerity, knowledge, and integrity. Thank you for your time tonight. Really appreciate such a good turnout.
Smith, go right here. Oh. Reverse order.
Oh, all right.
Sharna Cramer Smith. Okay, I believe in putting the needs of the people first, making this county and state a better place. I'm ready to continue serving and to bring back the accountability, transparency, and honesty back to the state level, something we do on a regular basis at the local level. This election is very much about you, the voters of Lapeer County. You have to choose what person you want to represent you. I've been told that I'm too nice for this position. Please don't mistake being nice as a weakness. I can and will speak up for Lapeer County. You're worth fighting for. Ultimately, the choice is yours. I'm ready to move forward. Thank you.
I'm Jan Peabody, and I'm a Republican still. I would like to thank the Tea Party for doing this forum and the Lapeer County Sportsman's Club. Today I'm asking for an opportunity to be your voice in Lansing. I believe I'm the right choice at the right time. Today I've released my 10-point code of conduct. In it you will find that I personally pledge to restore pride to Lapeer County. I encourage you to visit my website or go to my Facebook page to read it in its entirety. There will be copies available at the back as you leave. I firmly believe my life experiences as a single mom, a nurse working with people, and a believer make me the most uniquely qualified to be your next state representative and move Lapeer County beyond the past and into the future. I would be honored and humbled to be your next state representative. I'm asking for your help and your support in this special election. With your help, I'm confident
Thank you.
the next chapter.
Thank you.
Allan Landosky. I'm up here tonight, and I think back of when my oldest daughter, first time she wanted to vote. And I was trying to explain to her why I voted the way I did and what I think she should do when she votes. And one of the things that dawned on me that actually changed my political perspective was I wanted to understand what my local representatives were going to do. Do I have an understanding of where they're going next? Are they going to have a directed path? Are they going to keep doing the same right things all the time? If they're going to switch their boat, they're going to flip-flop, if they're not going anywhere, then I can't understand that, and I don't know if I want them representing me. Now, here's where I stand on this. If I'm your elected representative, besides the information I give you and also the activities I want to do to unify the entire county, I want you to know what I'm going to do next so that if you have a complaint or issue, you know who to call.
Thank you all for coming in tonight. My name is Ian Kempf one more time. You know, the truth of the matter is that we need somebody who can go to Lansing and work with other people. Simply going in there and pushing the no button every single time on every single vote does not mean you're forwarding the needs of Lapeer County residents. You know, I believe there are 110 House reps. That means that whoever is up here and goes to Lansing is only going to be less than 1% of the total vote. If you can't work with someone, if you can't work with people, if you can't form alliances and solve problems, you cannot be effective in Lansing. Ladies and gentlemen, I took over the Eastern Michigan Fair when it was $300,000 in debt. I worked with my board, who are all supporting me for this position. I went through the biggest recession in our lifetime. We cut government. We did it compassionately and effectively. I've been there. I can do it. I can do it in Lansing. I appreciate you tonight.
Gary Howell. Why do I want to be your state representative? Their names are Brenna, Shelby, AJ, and Jacob, our grandchildren. Cheryl and I have been very lucky. We've done well in our lives. We're retired. Our 3 children have done well. They're established in their professions. What I worry about is our small grandchildren and your grandchildren and children. Our economy is in dismal shape. Our state has numerous problems. I want to go to Lansing and work constructively to solve those problems. I believe that my background as a veteran, my road experience, my township experience, my extensive work in agriculture, and the other activities of my life make me uniquely qualified to represent everyone in Lansing and do the right job. Thank you.
My name's Rick Guerrero. Again, I'd like to be your representative to go there, go to Lansing, speak the mind of the Lapeer County voters, and while keeping the Constitution as a strong part of my decision making. I believe Lapeer County, the liberty movement is not dead. We are going to keep surviving, and we need to teach our younger generations all about what a free market and individual rights can accomplish. Thank you for your consideration.
Well, Jim Dewilde, first let me say I appreciate all of you coming out tonight. That was real great to see everybody, and as well as the people who hosted this event. I'm here to listen to you and take your concerns to Lansing. I've made a lifetime out of listening to other people, working with people of all stripes in order to get things accomplished. I pride myself on the fact that I'm willing, ready, and able to work with and listen to anybody and everybody, because that's, again, the way we get things done. Everybody's ideas are worth listening to. They don't always get addressed, but they're certainly worth listening to. And the only way we see consensus or gain consensus is by seeking consensus. And that's the kind of person I will be for you.
Thank you again for coming out this evening. My hope is that each of you are walking away with a better idea of who will represent you in Lansing. I love our county. I'm proud to live here, and I'm proud to raise my family here. I want to be your next state representative. If chosen, I will do my best to represent our county. I will be here in Lapeer County to meet with each of you and to address your concerns and issues. I will work diligently across the aisle to reach beneficial outcomes for our citizens, businesses, and state. I have stated this all along. I firmly believe it's time to put party lines aside and start what's doing best for our county, our families, our citizens, and states. We need more forums like the one tonight so that not only can you hear from the candidates, but that you can also see through the questions that we all want the same thing. We all want a strong county and a strong state. We need to start working together, not against each other.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jake Davison. I want to point out one thing before everyone leaves. I am 36 years old. I have been told I can pass for 24, if not 16, but I am 36. I was thinking of dyeing my hair gray or shaving it back on the sides a little bit just to look older. But I know there's some, I'm probably might be the youngest person here on the panel, but I have more experience at this than a state representative before. I've done everything involved with the job. I know all the angles of how things work in Lansing. I'm not going to apologize for being experienced in the ways of Lansing. I think that's a good thing in order to get good things done for Lapeer County. So I appreciate your vote on November 3rd.
Well, I appreciate everybody coming this evening. I appreciate having the opportunity to be able to sit up here with the panel. I think everybody here has contributed a whole bunch. I think the question is whether or not what you're looking for is effective. What is effective? Is effective going to Lansing and cutting deals and making sure that you're a part of the crowd and that you're willing to be friends with everybody, to give them the votes on the bigger budgets and more taxes, to be quiet when they're advancing those things? Is that effective? Well, you can have an effective legislator down there. If you want somebody who wants to actually stand and is going to stand against the tax increases and the spending increases, which both go hand in hand, if you want somebody to do that, you have to have somebody that has the grit and the fortitude and the willingness and the courage to stand apart. That's what it takes. When I started there, when I went down there, they said, you need to work with us and you need to go along or it's not going to go well. And I said, I don't work for the governor. I don't work for the speaker. I don't work for the caucus. I work for the people of Lapeer County. I came here and I said I wouldn't vote for a tax increase or a spending increase, and I did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out this evening and showing your passion for our legislature. The opportunity before you is a grand one at this time. I mentioned I'm a firefighter. 25 years I've served the community full time. When you do the math, I've actually spent 8 years of my life serving the needs of others, putting my life at risk. When I reached out to become a foster family at the direction of my beautiful wife back there, by the way, we've been married 29 years. My oldest child is 27 and my youngest is 5. So I've got 6 in the brood. When we reached out and became foster families, I became to understand much more about our community. It was no longer just my bedroom, the 4 walls within my house, and my children, but I began to understand the needs of those people around me. People that are very different than I am. And I reached out to them, and I embraced them. I'm going to do that in Lansing.
Thank you. Again, it's almost 10 o'clock. I kind of kept to the time. I want to thank the panelists and all of you for being here. I think your responsibility is hopefully you've narrowed down your decision on who you want to vote for. If you have, then you should work for that candidate to make sure they get elected at the next election, and this is your chance to applaud for the candidates. Thank you.
Big decisions. Big decisions tonight. I also want to thank all of you for being here. Let me add a couple things. Thank you to Judge for monitoring. I'd like to give him a hand too, please. Judge, a hand. One more time. I'd like to give thanks to the police officers, the sheriff's department here for coming here and helping us with our security. Let's give them a hand, please. They deserve it. And most of all, I'd like to thank all of you for coming and showing an interest. This is an important election, and I hope you got something out of this, even though it was long and there wasn't that many questions. Thank you very much for coming. Forget it.